across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show. It's just coming up to 3 minutes past 10 o'clock. Really looking forward to that bacon sandwich I've been promised on Monday morning. Not quite sure I'm going to eat it while I'm actually on air yapping at you, but, you know, I'm sure I'll be able to manage it. And but anyway, we'll see how that works out. As you know, I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense. And whether you're listening on DAB+ radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube, or your connected device, it is great, as always, to have your company, especially on a miserable cold day today with that storm hitting a large part of the country. Good luck out there after my little old lady fall on my front path yesterday. I feel your pain. If you do miss any of the show, don't forget you can go to my YouTube page, hit subscribe. You never have to miss a thing. It's easy to find. It's called the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. There, you've got no excuses now. Coming up in this hour, we are going to be discussing the Tory leader Kemi Badenoch's blueprint to save Britain's pubs, why the Met Police failed to properly vet thousands of officers, including rapists and violent thugs, allowing them to join the force. Why? Because of diversity, I kid you not, and the British forces who helped the US seize a sanctioned oil tanker heading to Russia. Going to be talking about all of that. Want to hear your thoughts on all of those stories. I'm delighted to say that joining me today is someone who can explain to me why a lot of these stories are so significant. As always, on a Thursday, first show of the year. Happy New Year to Philip Ingram, MBE, former senior military intelligence officer. Morning.
Happy New Year to you. It's been such a quiet start to the year.
I came back from the holes and went, are you kidding me? I'm just trying to catch up on stuff after basically drinking every roof terrace bar in Bangkok dry. And then it's like, you what? Trump's done what? What? Here's my thing. Trump hasn't been in office for a year yet.
I know. We're in for a ride for the next 3 years.
It's not even a year.
Hasn't it been good from a commentary perspective?
I mean, yeah, look, it keeps us in work, but sometimes could he take a day off every now and then?
Yeah. He makes it easy for the production team. They just have to look at whatever he's put out through social, and then that's
yeah, there is that is one of the worries, isn't it? That people end up just doing that. But I mean, look, there's so much to talk about today. There's a lot going on in America with ICE agents shooting dead a woman in Minneapolis. But there's lots going on with Greenland and Venezuela and all of that. But the question I'm actually asking our audience today is about the story that involves the Metropolitan Police. And I'm pretty sure it probably involves an awful lot of other police forces in this country as well. I don't like to be London orientated too much, but it is our capital city. It's the biggest police force run by the most senior police officer in the land. And for some, I mean, genuinely bizarre reason, because this does defy all sense, Scotland Yard decided to pretty much drop any vague pretense of vetting recruits to the Metropolitan Police because they needed to, A, get in a lot more officers very quickly, or they would lose a load of Home Office funding, and B, they wanted to get in a load more diverse officers. So if you victed a particular little tick box category, your colour, your skin colour, or your religion, or claiming to be trans or whatever it was, you basically were fast-tracked through. The only problem with this is and despite the fact that we're not trained as police officers, we're not detectives, we could spot this without knowing any more information than that. It turns out a lot of wrong uns got through. We're not talking about a few rotten apples at the bottom of the barrel. We are talking about 2 serial rapists among more than 130 officers and staff let in due to vetting failures who have gone on to commit crimes or be accused of and guilty of misconduct. Now, by the way, those are just the ones we know about. The ones who've committed crime and have committed misconduct that we don't know about aren't on that list. Huge numbers of very bad people will have got into the police force. The very people who are there to protect us from, checks notes, bad people, were open-armed, welcomed into Metropolitan Police. One of those officers, I kid you beeping not, had been accused of being a child rapist. Now, luckily, he hadn't been accused of anything more serious, like misgendering someone or, I don't know, being a climate change denier, because then perhaps they wouldn't have let him in the Metropolitan new diversity way. But this guy got into the Met Police. Look, we had the problems, didn't we not, with we had the killer of Sarah Everard. We've had numerous other cases where we've had horrific. I mean, David Carrick, one of the UK's worst sex offenders ever. Cliff Mitchell, a serial rapist as well, who called himself the devil. There were clues, guys. There were clues. Wayne Couzens was known as the rapist before he abducted, raped and killed Sarah Everard. His nickname was the rapist. I mean, it's not like people didn't know. And these people were welcomed into the police force and able to have power over other people and to commit crimes with impunity. And we only know about this after the force being sort of forced to admit it after an investigation. I want to know your thoughts on this, because this is, frankly, terrifying. You think we've got a problem with two-tier police. We've got a problem with the lies from the West Midlands police, the chief constable and others, about the banning of the Jewish fans from Israel, because basically a load of Islamist extremists in the mosques in Birmingham said we don't want Jews in Birmingham. It's a Jew no-go area. You think that's a problem? Imagine having a child rapist as a police officer investigating a case in your home, yeah? Well, let's talk about that, and I want to hear your thoughts as well. Give us your thoughts, because I'm not even shocked anymore. I'm just so outraged by this. I don't know how this stuff happens, other than the fact that the drive for so-called diversity, the right-onness, is such a danger to our country, such a danger to our innocence. We have got to stamp it out. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at talkTV. Calls, as you know, are charged at the national rate, and text costs £1 standard network rate message. Philip Ingram, what do you make of this story?
I think it's shocking, absolutely shocking.
Is it shocking? Is it? Actually, no, this is shocking. It
is shocking, because any time you start to bypass your normal procedures because you're going into positive discrimination, things are going to go wrong. Now, the numbers involved here are very small, but one is one.
They're not very small, 130.
But across the whole of the...
But that's the ones who've been caught.
Those are the ones that we know. Across the whole of the Metropolitan Police, by percentage, it's relatively small. But one is too many. 130 is ridiculous. Heads need to roll over this. And when I come out of a battalion in Germany, we had a vetting unit as part of it. And you had to go through everything diligently. And the vetting process itself is flawed. It doesn't pick up people who haven't been flagged to it, or through other reasons.
But there's a difference, isn't there, between sort of... We didn't know you had this extra Facebook account where you were posting pictures of your interest in child porn or something, as opposed to one of these guys, he'd been investigated by the police and the charges ended up being dropped for child sexual abuse charge. Now, I'm sorry. I'm all for people not being, no smoke without fine, innocent until proven guilty. When there are question marks like that, sorry. Yeah, can we see your hard drive, please?
Exactly. That should have flagged immediately. And this is where positive discrimination, if you try to do that, to click the different...
Well, this guy, turns out, he was black. Yeah, he was black, and that was why, we'll let it go. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you can't do that, because that...
If I told you that story and I just said that, like, this is what I think's happening, I will be taken off my job. I'll be accused of racism. People say this is literally Metropolitan Police policy.
Yeah.
By the way, when Chris Dick was in charge, who was, let's face it, I think it's blatantly obvious, was a diversity hire. You're a woman, you'll do.
Yeah, it's crazy. And as I say, as soon as you start to bypass your normal procedures and you start to put aside selecting people on the quality of who they are, no matter what their skin colour is, their religion is, their background is, or anything else, you're then opening a massive can of worms. And so many government agencies do that. The police have done it. The
military have been doing it.
The Ministry of Defence tried to do it, and Group Captain Lizzie Nicholl resigned over being ordered to prioritise people from ethnic backgrounds onto courses, and she said no, that's an illegal order. It's been proven it was an illegal order.
Well, we still have all this case. I mean, even like the BBC. I mean, again, in my day coming out of uni, and it's still the case now, there are so many jobs that are advertised and training schemes that are just for people of colour or people like, what, why? I don't understand it. I mean,
it's crazy. As soon as you start to label people, as soon as you start to pigeonhole people, what you do is you create greater diversity in society.
If you're not hiring somebody because they're black or they're a woman or that's a different thing from... Yeah. I've never been in favour of any of these things. The only category I fit in is
human
woman.
Being.
I've never been in favour of that. I don't want anyone to ever say I got a job because I was a woman.
Yeah, well, exactly. You've never got a job because of your woman. You've got a job because of your capability, and you will stand
because of gobby.
Yeah, and you'll stand up against any man at any time, and you'll be more gobby than them, and therefore you get the job.
But it's got nothing to do with being a woman. I really think it's really bizarre. But I mean, I genuinely think this is so terrifying, because we've got the Maccabi Tel Aviv case. You know, we've got the issue where, you know, let's just call it as is. You know, the British police, the West Midlands, basically kowtowed to a bunch of Islamist extremists who didn't want Jews in their town, and they basically threatened violence against Jewish football fans coming from Israel, and the police played along. They were too scared, or they played along with the anti-Semitism.
They enabled racism.
And they enabled blatant racism, and they played along with it. And/or they are terrified of the violence of these Islamist extremist construction. But you know what? If you're scared of those people, you need to start arresting those people. Yeah. If you are threatening violence, I'm pretty sure you should be arrested. Yeah.
If the police force is scared of a gang that there is, and it's a gang, take the Islamist label off, take the colour label off, take everything label off. It's a gang. If the police are scared of them, there's something wrong with the police, and the police need to sort themselves out.
Exactly. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do get in touch, 03444991000. Let's also talk about what's going on in America now. Radio 4 thinks this is the biggest story in the world. I would love it sometimes, absolutely love it, if Radio 4 took it more seriously, and the BBC, their flagship news programmes, they took more seriously problems with our own police rather than enforcement agents in America. But there is this extraordinary footage of this shooting in Minneapolis, sparking from pretty strong words between the Democrat mayor and governor of Minneapolis and the Republican administration in the White House. It's a terrible situation. A 37-year-old woman has been shot dead. Shot basically in the head as she was in a car. Now, we've got the video. I don't think we can show the whole thing, but we've got the video we can play for those of you who are watching on YouTube or your connected device, of where this woman basically, she was opposed to the ICE agents turning up. These are the immigration and customs enforcement agents who turn up to basically, arrest people who are in the country illegally. I ain't got a problem with that personally. They do go in very heavy-handed. One of the reasons they've been going in heavy-handed is because they're often facing violent protesters trying to stop them do their work. She has parked her big car in the middle of the road to try to stop them. Police are talking to them. She refuses to get out of the car. At this point, she goes to drive. Now, it looks to me from the turning of the wheel that she's driving away. Yep. Either way, don't mess with ICE agents, lady. Dumb decision. But a police officer right in the front of the car, who I believe is completely against sensible policy. You don't stand in front of a car that the ignition's on. He then shoots her straight in the face. It seems to me to be not an act of self-defence, not justifiable at all, but at the same time, and I'm really sad this woman has died, at the same time, I think she was insane to be doing what she was doing. We know that the, not just ICE, but particularly law enforcement agents in America are very trigger-happy in a way that our police and others are not at all here. It's prompted the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, again, he's a Democrat, along with the governor of the country, Tim Walz. He was, of course, Kamala Harris's running mate at the last election. Minneapolis mayor Jacob Frey has blamed the ICE agents for sowing chaos in the city. Here's what he had to say in a public statement.
To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
He also said just before that line that he felt that the claims that this was self-defence was BS. He used the actual full words. What did you make of this, Philip?
Well, I've seen the video, and I know Minneapolis has seen the full video. And the woman in the car was stupid for not stopping whenever there were law enforcement agents in uniform who were trying to question her, and she was stupid for trying to drive off. However, the ICE agent that was standing to the front of the car was in no danger whatsoever, and therefore there was no rationale as to why he pulled his pistol and pulled the trigger, and therefore.
He shouldn't have been standing in front of the vehicle anyway. That was unsafe.
He shouldn't have been, but he was to one side, and she was turning away, as you said, to drive down the street.
I don't think it's even up for debate.
There was no justification for shooting there.
Apparently,
whatsoever.
she's a lesbian poet. I'm sorry. What are the odds that she was a danger?
Yeah, but he's not going to know that and standing there, and therefore, in the heat of the moment when everything's going on, and you've got all the adrenaline running, human beings make mistakes, and this ICE officer clearly. Made a huge mistake.
But this wouldn't happen in Britain. This doesn't happen. We do not have that.
In the United States, they don't have the criminal. They don't have pace Police and Criminal Evidence Act that dictates how people go about arresting and dealing with people and all the rest of it. And then there's no independent police commission. And then what we've got here are the ICE agents, who are federal agents, in Minneapolis, where you've got state control, and therefore there's no state oversight as to what federal agents are doing. And that's
there's been a big outcry, lots of because actually, basically, you know, these cities where an awful lot of the migrants are going are in Democrat areas, and ICE agents being sent in, and it is very much like a Trump policy. By the way, I mean, it was something he said he was going to do. He's got a mandate for it. He's enacting the law. I have no issue. They're going in very heavy-handed, but it's interesting. This is a city. Apparently, there's been an outcry and uproar and protests on the streets. But this is the city where they were basically burning down buildings over the murder of George Floyd by police officers. You know, I mean, Minneapolis lost its freaking mind over George Floyd.
What you're finding is the polarisation in the United States between the Democrats, and this is a Democratic city, and the Republicans, who control all the state and federal agents, and in there means that you're polarising the communities. And when you then get down into local community bits, this is where you get community activists that this woman could have been, but they're fired up by this everything to do with federalism, and they put themselves into these positions. They're stirring it up amongst themselves.
And put yourself in Tom's way. Again, I just don't think you want to be getting in the way of large men with guns.
No, especially not in the United States. If someone in uniform with a gun
but
says
I still
stop,
think that what this officer did was wrong, and I think the defence is completely wrong. But again, is this the biggest issue that we should be talking about in Britain? I'm not sure it is. Let's talk about Keir Starmer. He finally had a phone call with Donald Trump. Donald Trump finally had time to have a chat with him about apparently set out his position on Greenland. Again, Britain, France, Spain, Germany, and indeed Denmark, of which Greenland is a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. They can have as many positions on Greenland as they want. What do you think that Donald Trump is planning for Greenland?
I really don't know, and I don't know why.
Does he know?
Well, I don't know why Donald Trump's coming out with the language that he is. I think he's doing it with a wry smile on his face, because he can see the waves of consternation it's causing across Europe. There's a 1951 treaty between the United States and the Kingdom of Denmark, and it's all about Greenland. It's all about the defence of Greenland, and it allows the United States to deploy as many troops as they want without prior consultation.
Put any bases on.
Any bases that they want on as part of the defence of Greenland, as part of a wider NATO defence. So the United States can do everything that they want to do today. So he's stirring the pot. Why he's doing it? Only Donald.
Is it a signal to Russia and China? Because we have got this issue, and again, lots of us, we're not sitting there going, "Oh, Greenland's terribly important globally and strategically." It is very important. Any weapon, any nuclear weapon fired from Moscow is going to be going over Greenland
towards
to the US. There's the seas around the Arctic, to the east and north of Greenland, very, very significant. Massive mineral storage, and again, bizarre that the Greenlanders have not decided to make themselves very wealthy by actually mining for those ores.
The minerals are in a position where it is virtually impossible with modern technology to get them out of the ground, because they're under so much ice and permafrost.
This is where global warming is a good thing. I keep telling people.
And the whole thing about Greenland is, as you said, it's where Russia will overfly any missiles that are going to the United States. It's also about the trade routes that are going around the north of Greenland through the Arctic, as the Arctic melts, and you can then get from the Pacific to the Atlantic. And therefore, it's about Chinese influence and Russian influence, and it's a wider battle of the Arctic. It's also sending two other messages out, and this is where I think Donald Trump is being deliberately naughty in what he's doing and pushing it. It's one to NATO, European NATO nations, saying step up and start spending even more on defence. And start to take this seriously. And the second one is to Canada, because Greenland, Canada, then United States. Canada is still only coming up to spend 2% of GDP on defence and isn't doing very much. And rather than directly have a battle with Canada because Justin Trudeau isn't there anymore, it's Mark Carney. Mark Carney's playing slightly harder ball, and Donald Trump's doing it by then putting pressure on Greenland. It's all a big game. Is he going to go and invade Greenland and take it over? No.
We just need to.
Does he want to buy it? Yeah, he's all about property
They've offered
deals.
money before.
Exactly. It's all
I'm telling you, if I was a Greenlander and I was offered like $10 million to have Trump in charge as the Danes judge, in fact, they're virtually under self-rule anyway. I've got to be honest with you. I think I'd take the 10 mil and move somewhere warmer. I'm old-fashioned. Russian like that. What do you make of this UK forces helping to capture, helping the US to capture this Russian tanker that changed names, changed its flag, and was basically in Icelandic water? We didn't, we didn't actually, get onto the vessel, but we were involved in some of the support aspect of this. Why does this matter? What's this about?
Oh, this matters hugely.
See, this is why we've got him on the show.
It matters hugely because these Shadow Fleet vessels, and this one was linked between Iran, Russia and Venezuela. The Shadow Fleet vessels are what are keeping the black economy going. That's funding Putin's conflict. That's funding what's going on in Iran. That's keeping the Chinese with cheap oil and gas and allowing them to do everything that's going on. So whenever we sanction these vessels, if you just sanction it, say, right, you're a sanctioned vessel, and then do nothing about it, there's no point in sanctioning it.
Yeah.
So this was sanctioned. This vessel was sanctioned over a year ago. The Americans tried to board it first of all in the Caribbean, but it turned and changed course and went away from the American boarding parties that were there, and it's been shadowed ever since. But it's still under legal sanction from the United States, and they've shadowed it into the Atlantic. And then to try and get round that, it changed its name mid-Atlantic. It changed its flag of origin from Ghana to Russia, and hoping that the Russians would provide some form of protection by them doing that.
Is there any likelihood there was anything other than oil on this ship and this tanker?
Well, there's a very
Russian military equipment, or
well, there's
something?
a very interesting statement on it where the Russians have said, we look forward to the safe return of all of our citizens that may have been caught up in this. And there was an incident in the Mediterranean where the Ukrainians sank another Shadow Fleet tanker that was transiting through the Mediterranean, and there just happened to be very senior officers from the GRU on it.
Who knew?
And the GRU, Russia's intelligence agency, that's coordinating all of these false flag actions around the world.
It's all going right off, I think, is the technical term.
What a good operation.
Let's bring things back a little bit closer to home. Emmy Badenoch, she's got a blueprint to save Britain's pubs, she says, front of one of the newspapers today. We know that pubs, having been through the worst of things during lockdown, shops able to open when pubs weren't, restaurants, actual lifeblood, not just of our local communities, but a huge employer across the board, massive part of our tourism industry. I mean, it's where most of us, got our first job. And basically, they are really, really struggling. Not only do people get used to drinking at home, they're not going out to work, they're working at home a lot. They're also just used to having, cheaper booze from the supermarket. Young people are just rubbish at socialising now. I'll say it again, I'll say it every single show. Young people, the problem with young people, they don't drink enough and they don't have sex enough, and that's what they should be doing. I'm serious about this thing. Get off your computers, get off your phones, start mingling with each other in the pub. This is the answer to all of our countries.
Is mingling a new style of...
Mingling is it? This will deal with the demographic, right? You name it, this deals with everything, guys. I've thought this through. This is Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is my new political party. Young people need to drink more and have more sex. This is the solution to everything.
Party, right.
Have fun, for the love of God. Stop moaning about stuff and wearing Palestinian flags and just have a laugh like we did when we were younger. Good grief. But the pubs have been hit by so many taxes. I mean, again and again and again. And they were told before the last budget, you're going to get help. You're going to get help. And actually, they're getting the opposite of help. They are going to be seeing their business rates go, sky high.
Tom Courage turned around, and who was a big Labour supporter before the election, and is now frightened that at his level he's going to have to close some of his pubs and restaurants because of the business rates. And then you've got additional employment costs and everything else. Yeah. But there's always a tweet. The 27th of November 2022, the Labour Party put out a tweet that said the Labour Party would scrap business rates.
Yeah.
So what we found, and we're finding time and time again, is every single promise that was put before the general election out to the electorate is something that the government, now that they're in, are just ignoring completely. Yeah. We've been lied to.
Well, exactly. The Treasury, they resisted demands to wind back changes to business rates relief that was announced by Rachel Reeves in the budget. And they're set to hike the tax burden on the hospitality industry from April. And we are looking at 45,000 pubs across Britain. And this is extraordinary. The average pub's business rate bill is going to increase by 15% next year. Yeah. It's an extra 1,400 quid. And some of them are seeing, tens of thousands extra having to be paid.
Yeah. And it's ridiculous. And how this is going to improve on growth across the economy, how it's going to create more jobs, it's not. Yep. The government, in every single policy they come out with, is anti-jobs, anti-growth, and pro-tax, and we're just going to have to end up paying more taxes.
Absolutely. Just finally, very briefly, apparently, and I've been saying this since word go, fat jabs are going to basically be for life. Yes, most people on fat jabs will lose weight. Most people don't lose as much weight as the big cases you often hear about, but you lose weight. But the moment you go off the jabs, you get your hunger pangs back, and then you put weight on, and apparently at 4 times the rate as if you've been on any other kind of diet. And so basically the only way to keep the weight off will be to stay on these jabs for life. I said this from day one. I knew this is what was going to be the case. That's why they wanted to do this, because they know they're going to make money. There is no incentive to cure cancer from the pharmaceutical companies. The incentive is to have the entire sodding population on a fat pill is what they're going to become.
I heard a fantastic interview with a guy that wrote the report. He was one of 3 that wrote the report this morning. And yeah, he turned around and the headline is saying exactly what you said. But actually what he said was the big problem is it doesn't change the psychology of the people who were overweight anyway. And whenever they stop the fat jobs and they just start eating as they did, and therefore they put the weight back on.
They get the hunger pangs.
So you have to. It doesn't really matter about the hunger pangs because
you haven't dealt with that.
You haven't dealt with the psychology of eating too much that got you overweight in the first
exactly.
place.
But that's exactly the same problem with every diet. That's exactly the same. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all that as well. Give us a call on any of the big topics, but particularly about the Met Police just basically not bothering to vet people so they can get more staff in. But particularly, more people from diverse backgrounds. That diversity included rapists and violent thugs. Give us a call 0344 499 1000. Your thoughts on that ICE agent shooting. Fat jabs for life. You name it, give us a call. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
TV drama on Channel 5 on Sun Investigation. Look Who's Hugh. Martin Clunes playing disgraced BBC pedo Hugh Edwards, the man that announced the Queen's death. It was the voice of the news. I'm going to try and be as calm as possible because I want your take. I think it is an absolute disgrace that pedo is walking the streets getting £200,000 a year. I cannot believe the BBC are so goddamn incompetent. I'm paying my licence fee so that pervert can live comfortably. It does my head in.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good morning. Welcome back to the show, 10:31. I have to say, just had a message. If you're still listening, you know who you are. Just had a message from a friend of mine saying she completely agrees with me about kids today. We were at school together. She's the same age as me, 57. That our kids that the kids today are a bit too boring, and she includes her own in that sometimes as well. So there you are. I have to say, don't include my own child in that. She's having a great time.
She's having a party at university, yes.
Let's go to your calls, particularly, first of all, on the total absence and failure of vetting of Met police officers. Andrew is in Chelmsford and has given us a call on 0344 499 1000. Andrew, what do you make of this story?
Morning, Julia.
Morning.
I'll just apologise in advance. I've got a very sore throat, so if my voice breaks mid-sentence, just give me a moment to sort of regroup.
I'm getting my little violin out.
I'm going to do my very best for you and your audience. So I just want to highlight and explain to people and how they should think about the absurdity of DEI hiring and how it's raced to the bottom. Now, a very, very important qualification is that I'm going to say that what is happening is that labour pools are being broken down by mutable characteristics or ideology and religion. So imagine a bunch of circles of all different sizes, and they're our labour pools. Now, a very, very important and a vital qualification is that all of those talent pools have an equal distribution of talent. So in each pool, there's the very best going down to the very worst. The talent pools are the same, but by talent and by distribution, but they are not the same in size. Now, I'm going to use a very ridiculous example to highlight the absurdity of this. If human resources departments are all motivated to hire one-legged, left-handed, non-binary Buddhists, how quickly does that talent pool run down very quickly? And they're ignoring all of the other talent pools.
Can I say that I disagree with you there, because I don't think all different groups have the same talents either. Again, like men and women, there are women who, on average, are better at certain jobs, and men who, because of their physical strength and height, are better at, and you know, testosterone are better at other jobs. There's a clear difference in terms of some abilities between different ethnic groups, even.
In terms of just academic ability, suitability. The pools will reflect each other because they have, they have similar people, but they have, different characteristics. Okay, but what I'm trying to avoid is that this isn't focused on anything that could be considered racism or bigotry or sexism or whatever. It's a numbers game, and the reality is the largest labour pool is being ignored. So there's some very, very good talent in there that's being left on the sidelines because other talent pools are being drained very quickly.
I think it's really simple, Andrew. I think the colour of your skin and whether or not you've got boobs or a willy is just utterly irrelevant to most jobs, and therefore shouldn't even be a matter for consideration. And we're going to have to move on, but thank you very much. Hope you feel a bit better soon. You sounded just fine. Cindy is in Michigan in the US, and they called us again. Lovely to hear back from you, Cindy. You want to talk about that ICE shooting, don't you?
Yes, I'm so ready for it. And by the way, I'd like a bacon sandwich too.
Totally. Yeah, just in case you just tuned in, Jeremy Kyle is going to bring me a bacon sarnie on Monday morning.
One for us, and we can share it.
Lovely. Okay. Do I look like a woman who shares a bacon sarnie? Come on. Come on.
Well, here you go. I can easily tell you why the officers were justified, okay? Number one, you have one officer who gets hit in the front of the car. You have another officer at the same time who's trying to open the door while she's peeling away. So right there, you have obstructing with a deadly weapon, which is the car, a 1,600-pound vehicle. You have impeding the law by blocking the officers as well.
Yeah, and you've not obeyed instruction to get out of the car. No, Cindy, she's completely in the wrong. She shouldn't have been there. She should have done what she was told by the big men with the big guns. But the officer standing in front of the car, well, that is not what they're supposed to be doing. And he didn't need. He could jump out of the way quicker than he could shoot her. He didn't need to shoot her dead.
Exactly, and she would be alive if she just paid attention to the.
I agree, but he should also be alive if she wasn't shot dead.
And then get this: you have a governor and a mayor who are clearly inciting violence. for the left to go nuts.
Basically by saying, get the F out of our city, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what is that?
I didn't think that was a way to keep things calm, given what happened in Minneapolis in 2020 after the George Floyd shooting, when everyone went completely berserk.
You're supposed to say, be calm, everyone.
Yeah, we'll do an investigation.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, she shouldn't have been doing what she was doing. I'm very supportive of the ICE agents, but they were gung-ho and trigger happy, I'm afraid.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it was outrageous what they did, yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm on the side of the ICE agents. They didn't need to shoot her dead. A law enforcement officer should only shoot someone dead in absolute extremis. And it wasn't extreme. She had a car. He could jump out. He shouldn't have been in the way, and he should have jumped out the way. He could have shot the tyres, could have done a million different things.
Oh, Julia, I love you, but I have to disagree because she had a deadly weapon right there, a 1,600-pound vehicle. She could have ran other people over.
She was clearly trying to drive away. I mean, look, she was a silly woman who shouldn't have been where she was, but I don't think she deserved to die for being a silly lefty protester. I just don't think she did. But, you know, there'll be an investigation. There'll be more footage to be able to see that will show everything. But, Cindy, always great to hear from you, and I love you, but I will not share a bacon sarnie with you. I'm going to take a quick break. Up next, James Mathewson, former Labour Party spokesman and commentator on all the big stories back home. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning. Welcome back to the show. 10:40 is the time. Let's talk to my next guest now, James Mathewson. He's a former Labour Party spokesman, very much not Labour anymore, and a commentator. Good morning and Happy New Year to you, James.
Happy New Year, Julia.
Thanks for joining us. Well, I mean, it's not a happy new year for a lot of people who are worried about the cost of living, and it's interesting that the Prime Minister's first, whatever the 50,000 millionth reset it was this week, talking about the cost of living and how we're going to turn a corner, all change, and things are going to improve in 2026. But it certainly won't for drivers, fuel duty set to go up, and it certainly won't for pub owners, hospitality, people who want to go to their local pub, struggling to stay afloat with their business rates are going up. What do you think Keir Starmer doesn't get about the costs that are affecting real people and real businesses right now?
Yeah, absolutely. These challenges at home are huge. I've just got to say before that, I'll just say very, very quickly, your last caller who I had to sit through was an absolute disgrace, by the way.
Why?
Because a woman was just shot dead, and you rightly refuted her on that. I'm pleased to see that you did, but a woman was just shot dead and murdered by federal agents in the US. And did you hear the callousness in her voice because she disagreed with her politically? That's the tide that we're facing from America.
I think we're facing that on the left and the right in America, and I think we face that here as well. If you're on my side, I'll agree with you. If you're not on my side, I'll condemn you.
That's definitely a factor across the world. It is polarization. But I will say, these people who support Donald Trump in their mania will support him no matter what. She was talking about the decency of a woman who got shot and why she shouldn't be there.
But she shouldn't have been there.
Not done. Yeah, I don't care, Julia. She was shot dead.
Yeah, I don't want her shot, but she shouldn't have been there.
The statements and the language from Donald Trump. She was bothered about the rhetoric of the mayor. When you see the words that Donald Trump says about, Greenland, about his own population, about Somali people in Minnesota.
I mean, one could criticise both, and I would criticise both.
Well, we're not here to discuss it. I understand.
Okay.
This. I'll not take any more of your time. Right, I could not sit through it without saying something.
Okay, let's talk about the cost of living here.
Yeah, absolutely. So Keir Starmer's situation that he faces right now is obviously very difficult. But I think you're right. I don't think it's not so much that he doesn't get it. I mean, he must get it. He must understand on a human level how difficult it is for people. And of course, it's in his best interest to fix it. He'll want to, of course he will. I just don't think that he's equipped to do so because he's not thinking outside of the box. Keir Starmer is very much a status quo kind of person. You keep things going as they are. There's certain institutions you can't change. There's certain options that are off the table. Unfortunately, we don't live in those times anymore. We live in times where you have to take drastic measures to fix drastic problems.
But we're going to see, thousands more pubs going under because of the business rates. At the same time, today, the government is enacting legislation which is going to spend £3 billion of our hard-earned taxpayers' money to give people who don't work full-time, mum off and not working at all, more money because they've chosen to have more kids than they can afford to have under the scrapping of the two-child benefit cap. I mean, they don't get it. This is just about more handouts for people who don't do the right thing, taking money from people who do the right thing.
That's not my view on it. I mean, a strong welfare state's important.
Yeah, we should just throw money at anyone who makes all the wrong decisions and can't be asked to work properly.
Wrong decisions. Come on, Julia. It's not about right or wrong decisions here. It's about a government supporting its people. That's its duty.
Supporting its people.
Yeah, it's responsibility.
And Labour's people are people who can't be bothered to work and have too many kids.
People. It's not about Labour's people. Any government should be doing the same. It shouldn't be up for contestation whether we support our welfare state. Just the same as our NHS.
I support the welfare state. No. Well, I support healthcare, but I don't support the NHS. I support the welfare state as a safety net, not as a way of life for people who can't be bothered.
It's not. But this is the difficulty that we come up against time and time again, Julia, is that you think it is a way of life, but it's very much not. You cannot exist on that.
Well, they do. We constantly hear this, apart from the fact that millions of people do choose to do that.
Lots of people have to. They don't have a choice.
We could help the people who don't have a choice, the severely disabled people who are really in dire straits through illness.
The problem is you're deciding who is in that category.
Yes, I want to decide. Yes, okay. I want medics to decide. I don't think a 19-year-old who doesn't like getting up on a Monday morning is someone I should be supporting with my hard-earned taxes.
I don't know anyone like that, though, Julia.
I literally know kids like that.
I think we should I think there should be a funded documentary to put you in the tribunals, Julia.
Oh, my God,
so
please.
No, listen, not so the power can go to your head, because I know what you like. But I think it should be so that you can see the reality of it.
Yeah.
And it will soften your heart, and you'll be changed.
I don't think it will. I really don't think it will. I've yet to watch
with an ear.
I've yet to watch one of these documentaries which are supposed to make me bleeding hot. And I see some woman at the food bank talk about how difficult things are. I'm just like, nope. I just think you should go and get a proper job and start having kids.
I think you need to examine something, or you need a visit from 3 ghosts. But the time for that's passed because we've just had Christmas.
You know who I worry about? I worry about the people who are really struggling, who are doing jobs that they really don't enjoy, with a rotten boss, getting paid a pittance, who are struggling every single day to make ends meet and put food on the table, and who are being forced to pay. And they're being forced to pay for those people. No, the vast majority of people getting that 2-child benefit cap, getting that extra benefit, which is a few grand a year, £3,500 a year. It's not 20 quid a week. It's not the child benefit most people are thinking about. They don't either no parent is in work, or only one parent is in work and they're not working full time. I'm sorry, if both parents were working full time, perhaps stopping having babies, they would be a lot better off. And I don't see why I should be funding their poor decision making.
But at the same time, you're frustrated with declining birth rates, and you're frustrated with all of that, aren't you? So if you want to make it more difficult for people to have children,
I don't want to make it more difficult for people to have children. I think that people who are law-abiding, hard-working taxpayers, I'm pretty sure that those people would have more kids if they didn't have to pay such high taxes to fund the other families who are feckless.
People claiming child benefit are not law-abiding people. Let's be clear about that. These are people who are in all sorts of myriad of circumstances, and it's just as it would be naive of me to say every one of them is fine and crystal clear and unscrupulous and all the rest of it would be wrong. It's wrong for you to say that they're all a problem.
No, okay. No, well, not all a problem, but there are people I'd want to help. We could help the people who need help far more if we weren't helping pretty much anyone who wants it. Let me ask you just finally about Labour setting to hike fuel duty from September. Keir Starmer under pressure for yet another. I mean, every single policy he lays out, there's more pressure for a U-turn. Do you think he will U-turn?
I think he'll probably have to in the end. What frustrates me time and time again, and I end up finding myself siding with Conservatives on this more than people on my own side, which is, it's horrible, Julia, to be honest with you. But, the frustration is the way that we talk about cars in this country and the way that we still kind of criticise people who have cars or drive vans as if it's like a choice, right? Like I grew up in rural Northumberland, in a single-parent household with not much money at all. We had a car. We had to. My mum went from, scrap car to scrap car to scrap car. We just had to because you could not get anywhere because there's no bus routes.
Absolutely. And this is what Nigel Farage said about the new drink drive laws, basically saying this is dreamt up by Islington cycling elite because they simply don't understand how vital they are. I'm going to have to leave it there. James Mathewson, former Labour Party spokesman and commentator, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Philip Ingram, do you want to come back in on any of that?
Yeah, well, I know a large number of people from all different social economic backgrounds, and I know.
I've done military intelligence on all of them.
Well, no, I know people who are genuinely deserving of welfare support, and I would give them my last penny myself if I felt they needed it. But I know even more people who are ripping the system apart. And playing the system. And
the people in between who kind of just need to be nudged to, that's not an option, mate, go to work.
But a lot are choosing not to work, or a lot are choosing not to do additional hours at work because they're getting benefits. If they didn't get the benefits, the additional hours at work are there and available for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to take a quick break. Up next, we are going to be talking to former Defence Minister Tobias Ellwood about where we are with Greenland and Russian tankers and where we are with these calls, actually, from a former military chief for Britain to restart our Cold War nuclear drills to deter Russia. Things are getting a bit hairy at the beginning of this year, aren't they? This is Talk, the home of common sense.
Brand new for 2026. It's going to be the only way to start your day. It's the home of common sense. It's where the nation can come to speak about the day's news. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You know who you are. You get up, you graft, you work hard. I'm here for you. We want to hear your side. Promise you one thing, it is where the nation can and will come to talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning. Welcome back to the show. This is Talk, the home of common sense for me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Philip Ingram's still with us now. Also being joined by Tobias Ellwood, former Defence and Foreign Office Minister, former Conservative MP as well. A very good morning and Happy New Year to you, Tobias.
Good morning and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you for joining us. Let's talk about where we are with, the US, with Russia, with China, with Venezuela, with Greenland. I mean, goodness me, what a start to the new year. We finally had a phone call between Keir Starmer and Donald Trump, where apparently Keir Starmer laid out his what his view was on Greenland. But we also know that the Brits took part in helping the US seize this Russian flagged tanker they believe had left Venezuela. Should we be worried that we are at the start of not just another Cold War, but a hot war?
Well, there's something you and I have discussed many times before, and I think we've been criticised for daring to suggest that our world is getting more dangerous. Yeah.
We're just warmongers, we're told, yes.
Absolutely, and it's not until war arrives here in the UK do then people wake up and say, my goodness, we do need to do something about it. For some time now, I've been calling for national service, daring to say that we do need to improve our societal resilience to recognize the challenges that are coming here. They've already landed in some ways. The cyber attacks that take place, I'm not sure what caused that outage in the Channel Tunnel, but Heathrow Airport, Marks and Spencer's, Land Rover, this is now becoming the norm, the way of other countries, our adversaries, to cause economic harm to us from afar.
You believe that those were state, organised and sanctioned operations?
I'm saying that is now going to become the norm. Operation, the exact determination of who was instructing this to happen. We do know that this is what China and Russia are actively doing, and it's going to become increasingly the challenge to the UK. We need to better prepare for that, and we're not. Our openness is our vulnerability. Let's say lights went out for 72 hours in your studio, in your area, in my area. Who would we turn to? Our council? Would they be able to provide the support? No water, no electricity. You could see how the pandemonium, the confusion, the turmoil that would be caused. We need to prepare for that. Other nations across Europe are doing that, and we need to do exactly that. It's been compounded, going back to your original question, by America choosing to go down a more isolationist route. Donald Trump, actually puts his finger on a lot of the problems. It's the solutions that perhaps we need to question. Greenland is vulnerable. The ice caps are melting. Russia and China are looking to dominate the Arctic. What more can be done to protect that neck of the woods? But it's part of NATO. Therefore, America grabbing it actually could end up seeing the demise of this important alliance, rather than recognizing that, yes, we do need to bolster our defenses in Greenland. Let's do that with Denmark, with Britain, with America, definitely. But grabbing that land, and in the same way with Venezuela, of where he's taking that country to, nobody's going to shed a tear with Maduro going. But he's now still backing the same regime, and it's clear it's all about oil keeping the American lights on. So there is a finessing of that relationship with America that we need to ask ourselves. And Ukraine, he still doesn't grasp the fact that bringing Putin in from the cold is not going to help European security, because Putin is on a mission to disrupt Europe, to break down NATO, to take more than Ukraine. We feel it already. We're being attacked on a regular basis. So it's this wider confusion of discombobulation that 2026 is just starting. Boy, there's more to come.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We're only a few days in. It's only the 8th of January, and we feel like we're being bamboozled with this level of news. And as you say, I agree with you certainly on Ukraine. It's something you and I have discussed many times over recent years. But there is this concern, as you say, about on the home front. We've had military chief after military chief in office and former, and we've got yet another one today, basically talking about how we are not resilient. We need to build up our armed forces. We need to spend a heck of a lot more. And this whole 3% one day thing is just not going to fly. We had Sir Ben Wallace, the former Defence Secretary, on the show yesterday. Again, he was someone who actually did get more money for defence, but always said there needed to be more. And we know how basically how vulnerable we are. A report today showing there were just 60 cables that if Russia chose to cut them, we know that the submarines are going around mapping them all. That's it. I mean, we're plunged into darkness and cold and and absolute chaos. Why is it, with all these reports and with all these really serious people making these, giving these warnings, why is it the government isn't taking it seriously? Because if they were, they would be spending the money and they would be doing this stuff.
You ask the critical question, and I think it's to do with whether the nation itself is calling for this. The nation still sees the threats as being afar. This is a war over in Ukraine. Yes, we're feeling a little bit of pressures. It feels all uncertain, but actually,
not a problem.
It doesn't really concern us. And yet the government knows about this. If the government was better at educating the British public, then there would be greater support to then lean into this. Unfortunately, we're probably going to have to wait to an acute event like those cables being cut for when everybody then says, why are you not doing more? Because at the moment, I was listening to your previous discussion, the pressures on the economy. People want money spent on the health service, education, all these other things, not on defense.
Yeah.
But ultimately, defense and security are intertwined now. Our economy is intertwined.
We won't have any health or education or welfare if we don't have security.
Exactly. So that is the bigger picture. And we've just touched on 2026 has started in a very difficult way. It's only going to get worse. We see Europe and America not on the same page for whatever reasons. You may disagree or agree with that. But ultimately, our adversaries are watching carefully, and they've got a very different agenda as to where they want to take our global order. And that's what we need to come to terms with.
Very, very interesting to hear from you. Thank you very much. Sure, we'll talk to you again many more times. We're both voices of doom on this front, but I think, unfortunately, we're far too accurate. Tobias Ellwood, former Defence and Foreign Office Minister. Really quick response from Philip Ingram. Well, we'll get more from you, obviously, in the next half hour.
Voices of reality and resilience across society is something that we do not pay enough attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. Just being prepared. It's amazing how many other countries have got, Finland, a tiny, tiny country. They've got, 250,000 reserve troops.
And reserve
Switzerland,
troops.
Everybody has to have a gun in their home, ready to defend the country. We are not prepared for anything. It's about our first-class civil service running everything, everybody. 10:59 is the time. Coming up to the news, as you can hear from the music. So much more to talk about. Lots more top guests coming. More from Philip Ingram up next. He is among my top guests, of course. And more calls from you. Full switchboard. I want to get to as many of your calls as possible. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Whether it's about Met Police failing to vet rapists like ICE agents, you name it, give us a call. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning. Welcome back to the show. 3 minutes past 11 o'clock is the time. This is Talk. It is the home of common sense, and I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Whether you're listening on DAB+ radio or on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device, thank you as always for joining me. If you do miss anything from the show, go to my YouTube page, the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. Hit subscribe so you never miss a thing. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be talking more about the Met Police failing to properly vet thousands of recruits. So we ended up with a bunch of rapists and violent thugs and racists coming into the Metropolitan Police. Yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But why? Oh, because they wanted to get more police officers in, and crucially, they wanted them to be more diverse, so they didn't bother vetting anybody. I kid you not. We're also going to be talking about Kemi Badenoch's blueprint to save Britain's pubs, and the Turkish man who's been jailed for 11 years in Belgium for supplying thousands of the small boats and engines used by people smugglers. Oh, those gangs are smashed, everything's solved, and everything's fine now. Let's see how that goes. Anyway, so much to talk about, including that ICE agent shooting dead a woman in Minneapolis. That has absolutely divided, I think, not just America, but Britain as well. And joining me for the chat today, delighted to say Philip Ingram, MBE, former senior military intelligence officer. Morning to you.
Good morning again.
Now, I'm going to have to do something which I was supposed to have done in the last hour. So bear with me, because I want to tell you here at Talk about how we are welcoming the new year by giving away a massive £26,000. What better way to kick off 2026 than with the chance to win some serious cash? No, you may not apply. You can, though. 26 grand. It's our biggest New Year cash giveaway, and it could be yours. 26k for 2026. And here is how to enter. For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or you can call 0343 423 9761. Lines close at 12 p.m. on the 9th of January 2026. That's when you'll need to answer your phone. If it rings, it's a UK only and 18 plus. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talksport.com/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 right now. And very good luck to you. Tell you what, 26k, that will come in handy.
So 83338.
There you go.
Right,
there you are. He's got it there. He's got it there. He's got it there. Anyway, Philip, let's get down to the matter of, the small matter of our country just being run into rack and ruin. I do think the lead story today, and I'm amazed that anyone doesn't think it is the rapists and violent thugs hired by the Metropolitan Police, because the Metropolitan Police decided they needed to act their full, proper vetting procedures. And as far as I can tell, I'm talking about the most basic level of vetting in a rush to recruit officers as part of not only an urge to lose, they didn't want to lose Home Office funding, which was basically extra money they were going to get. It was a £3 billion police uplift programme. And they basically, if they didn't get that, the recruits in by a certain time, they'd lose the funding. But also to improve diversity. So one officer who they recruited, we had 2 serial rapists, and one officer extraordinarily had been investigated, although the charges were dropped, but nevertheless investigated over child sexual abuse, child rape, and was allowed to join the police. I mean, what the hell is going on?
It's shocking. As soon as you get into positive discrimination, especially if it's for a target that's time-bound to get extra cash, you're going to get things wrong. And actually, if you look at the higher management of our police forces across the UK, how much are they getting wrong? Look at what's going on in the West Midlands with the decision over the Maccabi Tel Aviv football fans.
And I don't think that's just incompetence. I think that is very, very sinister.
No, it is sinister. And this is where we're getting a disparity between the police officers on the ground who are working very hard with fewer resources and more constraints on what they can and can't do to try and keep us safe, and the senior management who are playing these diversity targets and doing the come-by
I've said this before on the show before, but I've got good friends who are coppers, and I went to one of their 50th, and virtually everyone there was a copper apart from my husband and myself, and virtually every single one of them, when I say to them, so how long have you been in the force, and they would answer straight away with, but I'm retiring in, and they would say the number of years, months, weeks and days, hours, some of them. They're literally counting down. They said, this isn't the job that I signed up to do. I want to catch wrong-uns, and I want to put them behind bars. I want to keep my local community community safe, and I don't get to do that anymore. But this is the thing I just find extraordinary. And look, we had the case obviously of Wayne Couzens, and that raised a lot of issues because this was a man who'd repeatedly been flashing. I mean, the man couldn't get his willy out of women's faces. The man was constantly flashing people, sexually harassing people. His nickname was the rapist. There was a giveaway, right, in the police force he was working in, and then he went on to abduct, rape, and murder Sarah Everard. We've then got, again, these are not one-offs. We've got, these other cases. David Carrick, one of the UK's worst sex offenders, he's serving 37 life sentences now for attacks on 14 women. God knows how many others there were. Serial rapist Cliff Mitchell. He called himself the devil. Again, among the Metro Police officers who were not properly vetted in the scramble to meet new recruitment targets. I mean, this is what is so extraordinary. He'd been previously investigated, this guy, for 6 counts of rape against a child when he was recruited. There had been investigations. There'd been concerns about his recruitment, but a vetting panel aimed at boosting diversity overturned the decision to reject his application. Why? Because he was black.
And this is where I don't know why the alarm bells don't ring, because it happens time after time after time after time. If you're trying to bypass processes that are in place for a very good reason, and the processes aren't perfect.
No, but we're not talking about someone having some secret account somewhere. We're not aware of it. We're talking about the most basic checks.
Yeah, but this is the basic levels of the processes, not the advanced levels.
We're talking. We're not checking the hard drives of the computer we don't even know he owns. We're talking about. There's a police record of you being investigated for one of the most serious and heinous crimes you could possibly imagine.
But it might infringe his personal rights.
Again, innocent until proven guilty. But in the case of police officers, I think if there's any grey areas, we go, no, thank you very much. But at that point, that's when you check every aspect of his life. And if it was just some malicious allegation from an ex-wife or something, that's a different thing, isn't it?
The grey areas should be out. And in the application process, the grey areas should come out from the individual. Because the individual turns around and says, oh, by the way, I was investigated for this, and this is what happened, and there's what it is. They are being open about it, and therefore,
you would always say,
and therefore they're not trying to hide something. If they don't say it, they're trying to hide something, and something dodgy.
As someone who's a former senior military intelligence officer, what sort of vetting would be done by the police? Oh, by the way, Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, has said he did not endorse this process.
Well, there's different levels of vetting, but the very basic vetting that would come in is to check an individual is who they say they are, and the second.
That's a good idea.
Well, it's amazing how many people you find that aren't, and the second thing would be to check people's records with the police and with other agencies to see if they are they have criminal records, if they've been investigated for anything, if they are serial debtors, if they
so they could be bribed
exactly.
or blackmailed. But also there's an issue, isn't there? And again, they think this may be an issue where people who got no criminal record, but they join the police because they've got links with crime families, but therefore they can get in. But the reality, of course, is that you can't have people who come from families closely associated with crime, even if they're innocent themselves. Can you? Because the risk is too high.
As long as it's known and you can be risk assessed, it can be risk assessed, and it depends on how close you are with the families. If you're living with everyone that's part of an organised crime gang,
then let's not have you as a police
then that's
officer.
Different to if it's your second cousin.
But this keeps happening again and again. And look, we've had just this week, right? Just this week, we've got the Maccabi Tel Aviv issue. We've got senior chief of police officers, chief constable of Westminster Police, and others lying openly, blatantly to MPs in the House of Commons, which is effectively, it's lying to Parliament about the reasons they banned these. They basically played along with a bunch of Islamist extremists in Birmingham who wanted Jews out of their city. Birmingham, they've decided, is a Jew no-go area, and the police played along for whatever reason, and then they lied about it and the reasons for it. Again, everyone involved needs to go. Full stop. Nothing to discuss. Unemployable, lose your pensions, full works. I don't know how they're still in a job. I really don't. You've got that, and that's been ongoing since November. We've got that going out. Then you're dragging information out of them, kicking and screaming. Then we've got the case this week of these 2 teenage lads involved in a car crash. Someone's actually, under investigation and facing charges over careless and dangerous driving. But a teenage girl lost her life. One teenage boy dead. His mate in hospital with horrific injuries, in a coma for 3 weeks. The parents of the children were told this one is dead and this one is alive in hospital, sat by his bedside, other family grieving, planning his funeral. Police got it wrong. We talked about the show. The police got it wrong. and they've now apologised to everyone. Oh, they've referred themselves, to the
independent police.
But here's the thing: it's like the most basic cursory checks on who is who. And maybe they thought, I'm assuming we're talking about horrific burns or something, so they couldn't actually tell. But wouldn't that be a reason for you to double check? Surely there's an inquest into this. How a DNA test it costs nothing. Why would they not have done the most basic cursory checks? We are looking at a level of abject incompetence, corruption, failure to protect the public. I'm still thinking, what is it? It's 8th of January. 1st of June 2024, my bag was stolen because of my work getting the CCTV, my work tracking someone down, following them because he had my AirPods on, having stolen them from my handbag. I tracked down the guy who is the suspect now of this crime. They actually managed at one point to actually, arrest him and get him to court. Hasn't appeared in court repeatedly. They don't know where he is. I send a message every month going, hello, this is my regular check. They're not looking for him. Who are we kidding? We don't have a police force in any meaningful sense anymore in this country.
We don't, and there's so much pressure put at the lower levels where mistakes that will then happen. And with those two boys, that is completely tragic and unacceptable. But you have to assume that the police officers that did the investigation found potentially the wrong identification on the individual. We don't know the detail. And tragic mistakes can happen like that. But what you've highlighted is something at a higher level, that the problem is in there, and there is a lack of accountability. Chief Constable of Westminster Police for misleading Parliament, and he was called out for that. As he was sitting there, the Home Secretary should almost have walked around the corner into it and said, "You're sacked, mate, out." There's no accountability.
No, but anywhere in public life anymore,
exactly.
I think there really is.
It's the same in the military.
Should there be accountability for the ICE agent who shot dead a woman in Minneapolis yesterday, a 37-year-old woman who's been named as Renee Nicole Good? Department of Homeland Security has said she was a violent rioter. She was sitting in her car. She was trying to stop ICE agents, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. I'm sure we can show the footage while we're talking. But basically, she was surrounded by armed officers from ICE, basically telling her to get out of her car. She refused to get out of her car. She goes to drive away. An officer who's right in front of the car, which is against police rules, those rules. That's not what you would do in that scenario. He shoots her straight in the head and she dies. They then refused to allow a man who claimed he was a doctor, actually a neighbour, to go to tend to and attempts to resuscitate her. Failed. She has died. Let's have a little watch and listen of the Minneapolis mayor. Bearing in mind these, Trump sending the ICE agents from a Republican White House into the Democratic-run state of Minneapolis. The governor of Minneapolis is Tom Waltz. He was Kamala Harris's running mate for the presidency. The mayor, Jacob Frey, is Democrat, and he's blaming the ICE agents, no question at all. This is his message to them.
To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
What do you make of this case, Philip Ingram?
Well, having watched the whole video and all the rest of it, the ICE agent put himself in a position where he shouldn't have been. He was not in immediate danger, having drawn his weapon. The woman got it wrong by anyone in the United States.
She shouldn't have been there. She should have done what she was told by the men with the guns.
And they know, especially in Minneapolis, how trigger happy the different law enforcement agencies are that's there, and therefore you don't drive off if you don't want to get shot at. Even I know that.
She was, by all accounts, trying to block the road for the ICE. Again, don't do that either.
Yeah, but again,
if the ICE agent tells you to get out of the car,
then
get out of the car. But,
exactly. But
I think she was murdered in cold blood by the ICE agent.
There was no justification for him taking the action that he did to stop her, because she wasn't an immediate threat to him or to his colleague or anybody else that's there. However, I'm sure this will be investigated, but it's the US jurisdiction. They've got a different view on things than we have and all the rest of it. And therefore, we've got more than enough in this country to be focusing on.
Yeah, indeed.
Well,
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and your thoughts as well on the Met vetting failure. What's your your reaction to both those stories. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. You can text us on 87222. Get in touch on X at talkTV as well. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text cost 1, standard network rate message. The other big issue, of course, I mean, we can talk about, it is extraordinary. We've got, the seizing of Maduro in Venezuela, the threats to Colombia, to seizing Greenland from Donald Trump. We've got the coalition of the willing and unfunded, as Ben Wallace called them, former Defence Secretary yesterday, in Britain's in Europe, saying, "Ooh, no, Greenland, get to decide what happens to Greenland." Keir Starmer finally had a phone call with Donald Trump, because we are so low down that calls list. We're so irrelevant to Donald Trump now. Should Britain be talking more tough and acting more tough when it comes to a threat to, let's face it, a threat to Greenland, threats to Canada as well, but a threat to a fellow NATO member, Greenland? It may be in America's sphere of influence and backyard, but it's constitutionally, legally, Greenland is part of Denmark, and Denmark is one of our closest allies.
We should be working very hard diplomatically to get Donald Trump to get his language right and stop threatening NATO, which is being exploited by Vladimir Putin and by Xi Jinping, and look at the wider defence of Greenland if Donald Trump believes that is really at the heart of what he's doing, because the 1951 treaty about the defence of Greenland, that is part of...
This is the wake of the Second World War, when Greenland was very crucial, actually, in the Atlantic.
And the United States took responsibility for protecting Greenland during the Second World War, so it was formalising that as things moved on. It's still there. It allows America to put as many troops, as much military capability on Greenland at any time without even having to get the permission of the Danish government. So what Donald Trump's saying is out of kilter with what's actually in international agreements already, and it's right and proper that we talk to Donald Trump and get the language right. However, Donald Trump
can anyone persuade him to?
No, he'll do his own thing. However, what the underlying bit with what Donald Trump's saying is, Europe, you need to step up and step up faster and step up more. And as a country, the United Kingdom, we are not doing it. We have been running ourselves into the ground.
We're spending, what, 60 billion, give or take, on our defences right now. We're at 2.3% of GDP. My thing is I don't even care what the percentage is. The point is, do we have the capability? Right. We couldn't defend the Falklands right now. We can't help defend Ukraine right now. Neither can the rest of Europe. We don't have the ability to do anything right now. In which case, do we just need to upgrade our defences, full stop, whatever it costs, so that we can do whatever we need to do to protect our interests?
We can defend the Falklands now without any problems whatsoever.
Can we? I'm being told we haven't got the battleships to do it.
You don't need the battleships at the minute, because the threat doesn't have a seaborne capability that could come in, and we've got fast jets down there, and we can get others down there faster than the Argentinians could do that. So we can defend the Falklands. We've got commitments around the world, but our defences have been run down. And the amount of money is critical. We need to get from 2.3% to 5% quickly. The reality...
When you say quickly?
In the next 5 years.
Yeah, not sometime in the 2030s.
The reality is, in the next 3 years, and this is where the government's lying to us again, the government has front-loaded in-year money as a potential compensation for a cyber leak of Afghans that are coming to this country, and in-year money for the front-loading of the Chagos deal.
And that's billions.
So we've
got the illusion we're spending more on defence, but actually we're just spending it on lawyers.
The reality is, in the next 3 years, and I'm talking to people in defence today, they're having training cut, they're having access to ammunition cut, they're having everything else cut at the minute, because they're suffering in-year cuts. And therefore, any of the programmes that are coming out are longer-term ones, that's 5 years plus, beyond.
We don't have 5 years. I mean, what about this threat to, the cables and in the Atlantic and in the North Sea? Those are threats right now. The cyber attacks, the drone attacks. There's no doubt. I mean, Russia is up to something.
Oh, 100% Russia's up to something. And Russia is working in the grey zone. And China is
are they testing us every day?
Do
you think some of the attacks we have, when we have the cyber attacks on, whether it's the NHS or whether it's, private
they're testing us. They're testing our resilience.
And when you say testing how easy it is to do, or testing our reaction?
Both. Because they're testing how easy it is to get in. They're testing their tools that they can use to get in. They're then looking at how we react. They're looking at whether we can defend against it and stop it happening.
We're failing those tests.
Correct.
Because I remember seeing a documentary years ago, basically said that every single society, you think, oh, this is a wonderful civil society. You know, we do know we only get cross if someone doesn't queue, but that actually every society is only 3 square meals away from full-scale rioting and chaos and anarchy. Because if people don't know they're going to be able to eat tomorrow, people get desperate and people do things. If there were these cables got cut, click, 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 click. Now we've seen what happened with the North Sea. We saw with the Nord Stream. I mean, the Nord Stream pipeline. You know, Nord Stream 2 got cut at the beginning of the Ukraine war. I mean, that's rather a bigger deal than some of these electric cables. So if we were unable to get money in and out of the country electronically, electricity, gas supplies, liquefied natural gas, our communications, lights, energy. Lights go off. Lights go off this time of year. The heating goes off this time of year. We can't get communications. We can't get money out of the bank. We are talking about full-scale anarchy within days.
Cutting only a few of those cables would destroy the economy of this country and would be almost irrecoverable.
How?
Because think of the City of London. Think of how much money the government is getting out of the City of London. If you blinded the City of London and deconnected it from the rest of the world and it couldn't move money around, the financial impact of that, the ripples that would send across the globe would be huge. And by the time we got that all reconnected and set up again, then other financial institutions around the world would have taken it over. And trying to therefore get back into that market again, there'd be a lack of confidence in our resilience
collapse in the pound.
There'd be a complete collapse of our economy. And Russia could do that today, like that.
Happy New Year, everybody. I wish I hadn't asked that question now.
Is
that part of the issue? We don't want to know the answer.
But the issue is we don't want to know the answer. The issue is that the Treasury is not listening to the Minister of Defence. And when the Minister of Defence turned around, Ben Wallace yesterday turned around and said he got a lot more money for defence. He did get a lot more money for defence, but actually that a lot more money was then badly spent by defence, completely and utterly wasted.
I'll take that. I'll take that to him next time he comes on.
And defence capability went down. We've got defence chiefs who are sitting there going, "I'm doing a really good job. Give me my knighthood and give me my peerage, and I'll wear scrambled egg on my shoulder." Whilst the army's been cut, the Air Force has been cut, the Navy can't get its ships out of dock. Instead of them turning around and going, the only way that I can deal with this is to resign publicly and send a very strong political statement by doing that. They're not. They're more than happy sitting there getting their titles, their scrambled egg, and their big pensions.
You mean all their gold braid?
Yeah.
I love that. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it is. It's called the scrambled egg.
I was going to talk about fat jabs, but it feels a little bit silly right now after that doomsday warning. Love to hear your thoughts on that, everybody. I'm going to go and get my flak jacket on, and we're going to take a quick break. We're going to take your calls. Honestly, I'd love to hear your reaction to what Philip has just had to say. Your reaction, of course, to what is going on with the rapists and violent thugs being hired by the Met Police because just didn't bother vetting. Because they text a diversity box, and also that ICE agent killing of a female protester in her car. Give us a call 0344 499 1000. This is Doomsday Talk.
These sort of rewirings of the state do need to be done, because I think vast parts of it, the Home Office I would include in that, the Ministry of Justice I'd include in that, obviously what the hell is going on Britain's borders I'd include in that, and the Met Police I'd include in that. It's these unwieldy, out of control organisations that actually any one or two cabinet ministers who change colours and parties and stripes every few years, actually they come in and realise they're not in charge. These are being run by the organisations themselves to the detriment of Britain.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning. Welcome back to the show. I'm into Doomsday Talk today. Philip Ingram. Wow. I mean, are you available for bar mitzvahs, Christmas parties, weddings?
Yes, yeah.
Doomsday about just basically how dire things are. I really hope that people like you are talking to our politicians and telling them. And if people are not listening, that really, really worries me. People say, when these people talk about like warmongers, people like me, you, but no, you've been to war. You've been at the sharp end. You want us to avoid war.
I'm a pacifist.
Yeah.
I will fight for peace. I will fight to get the truth out there because it's important that people understand reality, not flag waving and tree hugging. That will not stop conflict.
With you all the way. Thank you very much indeed. Love to hear your thoughts on what Philip had to say. 03444991000. Lots of you getting in touch about the Met Police and indeed the ICE shooting in America. Let's go to Susie, who's in Hertfordshire, and you want to talk about the Met Police abject failure to vet people.
I do. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Philip.
Happy New Year to you.
I'm 43 years old, and I cannot believe the denigration of society.
Yeah.
I grew up in a time, I'm not even that old. And I grew up in a time when a teacher entered the room, you stood up.
Yeah.
When the police spoke to you, you were polite. You respected the police force. They were there to protect you. And just this week, we found out that not only did an entire police force hide the fact that there were Islamist thugs that wanted to spill Jewish blood on the streets, they stood in their job.
Yep. They helped, they aided and abetted them.
Absolutely. So are we surprised that they've got child rapists and paedophiles? Yeah. No, not really. Because not only do the people not respect the police don't even respect themselves.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point.
When you put on a badge for this country, when you're fighting for this country, you do it in the name of the crown. That used to be respected. Yeah. You've got people like Zara Sultana saying that her New Year's wish was for the disbandment of the monarchy.
The abolition of the monarchy. Yeah, but that's it's a minority viewpoint, but it's a perfectly legitimate viewpoint for someone to have.
Become. What is this country? What do we stand for? We're more than just fish and chips and EastEnders.
No, apparently, if you ask the Prime Minister, diversity is what is a British value. Did you not get that memo, Susie?
Him and the Mayor of London, they are just... I do not know what is going on. I'm a Jewish person. I am currently filling out paperwork to leave this country.
I know. No, I'm not... please. Where are you going?
I'm terrified.
Where are you going?
Israel. I'd rather live in a war zone.
This is the thing I find mind-blowing. That and having been to Israel, I completely understand the appeal. It's a fabulous country. It really is. But I just don't want anyone to feel they have to leave this country because of their faith.
Julia. I'm a disabled woman, and wheelchair services won't give me a wheelchair. I've got an HMO literally across the path from me with illegal migrants.
Yeah.
I've had to move the Jewish symbols that we put on the door inside my apartment.
Because you don't think you'll be safe.
Because I can't let anyone know that I'm Jewish outside of my own house.
That's just appalling. And you don't feel the police are going to be on your side, because as we saw with West Midlands Police, although you're in Hertfordshire, they were on the side of, let's face it, the Islamist, violent thugs. Susie, I am so sorry about that. I am so sorry to hear that. This is a source of shame for everyone in this country. And I don't care if it's so that someone is Jewish or Muslim or atheist. If you feel you have to leave this country because you feel you're not safe because of who and what you are, That is so wrong. Philip, I know you want to come in.
Well, you know, a friend of mine who is Muslim, who worked for MI6 for a number of years, was forced out of this country because of the bullying that him and his family got, and in particular his family got in schools in this country, because some of the parents found out that he'd worked for intelligence services, found out his background that was there, and bullied him and his family out of the country. They're now living in the Middle East.
And were the people bullying, were they fellow Muslims?
No, they were locals from part of the UK.
But they thought you're somehow you shouldn't be working for the authorities.
They thought you're a threat to us. You're going to bring people in to want to try and put our children in danger and all the rest of it. So
extraordinary. That's awful as well. Absolutely awful for somebody who was serving their country. Yeah. Terrible. William is on the line. He's in Liverpool. William, you want to talk about, well, not policing here, but effectively policing in America, that ICE shooting of that woman in Minneapolis. What do you make of it, having seen the video?
Well, Julia, I agree with what you were saying most times, but on this occasion, if that lady had got away and a shooter ensued, she could have killed several people.
Yeah, but I mean, so could anyone in a car at any time. She shouldn't have gone to drive away. She shouldn't have been there. She should have got out of the car, and she shouldn't have gone to drive away. Was that a reason for the police to shoot her in the head?
I think so, because as I say, in America, you know you're going to get shot. It's not like this country. True. Like, you know you're going to get shot. So she should have just stopped. Really,
I agree with you 100%. But just because she was in the wrong, and she was on all counts, does that mean that it was okay for the ICE agent to shoot her in the head when he wasn't a risk himself?
Because you don't want to say to some parents, "Oh, well, let her go because I couldn't shoot her."
No, but that wasn't the only opportunity. There were plenty of other ICE agents. They could have shot the tyres out, and she actually, she was dead, so the car pulled over.
I don't think it's the movies, Julia. I don't think it's that easy to just shoot the tyres out.
I'm pretty sure there were enough ICE agents there, they could have shot the tyres out.
Well, maybe, but I can only go on what I've seen on the television.
They could have rammed her car with another car. They had plenty of vehicles. They could have just, rammed into the side of her and taken off the road. There are a million different things. That wouldn't have happened here. When our police officers get out a gun and they shoot somebody, to kill them in this country, that is in extremis with somebody who is a known criminal, known to have a gun. And all of the cases that we've seen in recent years have been on the side of the officer 100% every single time, as soon as I've seen the facts of the case. I look at this, there may be a different video that shows something different. But on the evidence we've seen so far, so I'm going to give that proviso, doesn't look to me like it was justified.
Well, a lot of people can have a gun in America.
That's true.
It doesn't mean just men. Women can have a gun as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think she was pulling a weapon on them. Yeah, she was in the wrong. She was insane to not get out of the car. And let this be a lesson to everybody. But she shouldn't have been there trying to block ICE agents doing their legal business as mandated by the government that was democratically elected. Problem with a lot of these people, Miss Little, poet living in Minneapolis with a wife apparently egged her to go on down this, is that they don't regard Trump as a legitimate president, and they don't regard the policy as legitimate. They think they are beyond and above the law, and that's a problem.
Yeah, but what do you do know in America, Julian? And as we just said before, everybody's got a gun. If you don't stop, you're going to get shot. We know that. So I'm afraid she got to probably be angry, and now she's paid the consequence.
Yep, she has. I just don't think it needed to be that severe a consequence. But William, I absolutely, I think a lot of people will agree with your point of view. Do you want to come back in again, Philip Ingram?
Yeah, from the videos that I've seen, and again,
there are some different angles, aren't there?
It was not justified from the ICE agent. However, what we haven't seen is what was going on inside the car, and therefore, if the woman did make a move to potentially get a weapon and all the rest of it, then that changes matters completely.
But we also know American law enforcement tend to be much more trigger happy.
They are much more trigger happy.
But that's of course because they are more likely to,
meet people.
Again, people talk about cop killings of black men, and actually, more cops are more likely to be shot, and you can understand why they are so.
And therefore, it's great us speculating, and the videos make it. I've watched them in detail, and I would come down on the side.
And you're someone who has held a weapon.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what the ICE agent did was wrong. The woman was doing things wrong. I didn't think she was an immediate danger, and therefore shooting her was not right.
Okay.
However, I didn't see the perspective from the ICE agent who pulled the trigger, who was looking through the windscreen at her and didn't see what she was then doing. He may have seen something completely different.
And I think we'll find when he gives evidence, he will be saying what he saw. But whether or not that turns out to be true or not will be a different matter.
But it doesn't matter. If she made a move that made him think that she was going for a weapon, you're then in seconds. You have to make a decision.
You have to make that decision. Yep, very fair point.
When you shoot, you shoot to kill. Yep. You don't shoot to wound.
Top tip for people: don't put yourself in that scenario. 11:36 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to be talking to former Commander of Specialist Operations at New Scotland Yard about what the hell has gone wrong at the Met. And we're also going to be talking about are the gangs being smashed. Now, a Belgian court has jailed a man who basically supplied thousands of the small boats and engines used to cross the Channel. That's all coming up. This is Talk, the home of common sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. Just a reminder that here at Talk we are welcoming in the new year by giving away a massive £26,000. What better way to kick off 2026 than with the chance to win some serious cash? Yep, 26 grand. It's our biggest ever New Year cash giveaway, and it could be yours. It's 26k for 2026. And here is how to enter. For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or you can call 0343 423 9761. Lines close at 12 p.m. on the 9th of January 2026. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. It has to be open only to UK and 18 plus. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talksport.com/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 right now. Very good luck to you. Right now, let's talk more about what's going on. After talking about ICE, we're going to be talking more about what the hell is going on with our Metropolitan Police after that extraordinary revelation that rapists and violent thugs, including 2 serial rapists and a man who had, 2 serial rapists who've now behind bars. These are just the ones we know about, who were basically hired by the Metropolitan Police when they chose not to properly vet, or in some cases do any vetting at all, of thousands of recruits. It meant that not just rapists, people accused of child sex abuse, racism, violent offences and goodness knows what else were allowed to join the Met Police. Why? Well, because they didn't want to lose out on some Home Office funding and needed to rehire people quickly. And also they had those, we love them, diversity targets. So certainly in one case, one officer was hired on the basis that, well, even though there was this allegation against Cliff Mitchell, a serial rapist who called himself the devil, that he had actually raped a baby. Can you think of a worse crime than that? he was black, and so they decided to reject overturn the decision to reject his application at the vetting panel. Mind-blowing stuff. Well, let's talk about this with Roy Ram. He's a former commander of Specialist Operations at New Scotland Yard. Roy Ram, thank you for joining us. Happy New Year. And what on earth has gone wrong at the Met?
Do you know what, Julia? I almost declined to come on this morning because I'm totally lost for words. It's just extraordinary, and it's a betrayal of just about everything. It's a betrayal for Londoners. Can you imagine if you're a decent, honest police officer, and a new guy comes to your station or a new young woman comes to your station, and you do not know now whether they have been a convicted criminal. You do not know whether they have been vetted. Who are you working alongside?
Yeah.
I don't want to swing the blue lamp too much here, but when I joined the Met, a police inspector came to my home and interviewed me and my parents. Obviously, there's the fingerprints in the photograph and all the rest of it, and I had to provide references. It is inconceivable that the Met should have people being recruited as police officers that have not been vetted, and when they have been vetted and these kinds of offences have been discovered,
nothing's been done. But again, we're not talking about really, high-level vetting and these people slipping through the net. We're talking about the most basic employment checks that would be carried out for someone getting a job in a shop.
Yeah, and I think it's quite clear that Mark Rowley, the current commissioner, so Mark Rowley, recognised the scale of this problem, and that's why he needed to get changed to be able to get rid of officers that that were being protected by employment law.
Yeah, and by the Police Federation.
Yeah, absolutely, and by the Federation. As a police leader, you have to have confidence in the people that you're putting out there on the streets, and you have to be able to reassure Londoners that you've got an honest a force with integrity. Joining the Met should be aspirational, and I just think it is such a betrayal. It's
such an important word, that I think. And again, the Wayne Couzens case with the abduction and the rape and the murder of Sarah Everard, again during lockdown, with very few people on the streets, and he was able to use, his ID to sort of say, I'm a police officer, I'm going to drive you home. I mean, she wouldn't have got in the car of some random bloke. He was able to use his status as a police officer, and it got to the point where women were genuinely I'm afraid I can't trust if alone or even two male police officers, because I don't know if I'm going to be safe. And since that case, numerous stories have come out, and again, these are the ones we know about police officers who have used their position, used their warrant card and their uniform to rape and abuse women. We know about cases of the grooming gangs, when the girls who go to the police actually then not only do nothing, they then rape them themselves. I mean, it's it sounds like something out of a TV drama. It's like Line of Duty, rather than something that should be happening in real life.
And I think we've both been around the news long enough to know that bad news makes the headlines. The good news, the thousands of police officers out there doing a really good job and protecting the public, it pushes that into the background, and it's them that are suffering. I feel so sorry for police officers, the good police officers out there today trying to do the job, when, as you rightly say, if they approach a young woman in the street and say, can I help you? They're very likely to get confronted with hostility and well, why should I trust you? And they're legitimate questions. And I think you're quite right that a lot of this, the history of this back into this ridiculous attempts to get these diversity targets has done enduring damage.
And it was such a big change. I completely understand why. So after we have some race riots and things in Brixton, it would be a good idea to have officers who looked the same as some of the people at police. So you didn't have this sort of clear black-white dichotomy. I completely understand that, and people who perhaps can have more of an understanding of the attitudes from particular racial or religious communities, that insight, that intelligence would be useful to know. Again, same reason. Not a bad idea to have women in police force who can go, yeah, actually, you know, this may be how a woman would react if she was raped, as opposed to what you might think she should do. You know, and I understand all of that, but it's just gone way too far, to the extent that basically, well, we'll let it go. Yeah, you might have been accused of, okay, we didn't have the charges, but you might have been accused of raping a baby, but you know, you're black, so we'll let you in the police force. That is insane.
Well, you imagine that the young black people now, excuse me, young black people now in those communities looking and go, well, do I really want to join this? They've taken these guys. You know, this is a deterrent to having a diverse police force, because what
who wants to be associated with this?
Yeah, exactly. We'll let anyone in.
And is there any reason to think this is just the Met?
I don't know. I mean, the Met was under enormous pressure, and it kind of gets this pressure from the Home Office more directly from anywhere else. But I think you know, probably there's chief constables around the country of other large metropolitan forces will be looking at their recruitment process and perhaps saying, you know, have we been down the wrong path here?
Yeah, well, is there any wonder that we should have some worries about the more senior, more junior people when we know who's the people who are senior? Let's look at what's been going on at West Midlands, please, because astonishingly, the Chief Constable, Craig Guilford, is still in a job. I don't know how he's still in a job since November, but let alone after his latest Select Committee appearance before the Home Affairs Select Committee, where it is very, very, very clear. Nick Timothy, he's a Labour Tory MP, and he's a former Chief of Staff to Theresa May when she was Prime Minister, has basically said the West Midlands Police lied and lied again to justify a ban on basically Jewish Israeli fans attending a Europa League match against Aston Villa in Birmingham, and they did it at the behest of Islamist extremists in Birmingham. And they've lied about everything pretty much every day since then. How on earth is Craig Guilford still the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police?
I honestly don't know, and I can't answer. I mean, I do think that the Police and Crime Commissioner, because they're still in post at the moment, although they're due to go, thankfully.
Pointlessly,
but, you know, somebody should be holding chief officers to account. And I think sometimes the relationship between police and crime commissioners and chief officers has become far too friendly and too cosy, and they're not holding them to account in the way that they should. And I think he should probably go.
I think he should definitely go. But there we are. Roy Ram, great to hear from you, former Commander of Specialist Operations at New Scotland Yard. Just a really quick response to that last point from Philip Ingram.
Well, that last point is very interesting, because we haven't heard from the Police and Crime Commissioner in the West Midlands, who is a Labour Police and Crime Commissioner, and what their direction was or influence was over the Chief Constable.
Keeping in with the local councillors.
About operational matters. So this might be the Chief Constable putting himself up on the firing line to protect his Police and Crime Commissioner, which then changes everything a little bit.
Everyone's in cahoots and everyone's trying to cover up, and everyone involved needs to go. Unfit for public
100%.
office. 11:48 is the time. Up next, smashing the gangs. That's what Keir Starmer said he'd do, and as he oversaw a massive increase in the number of people crossing the channel. But don't worry, it's all solved now, because a man was yesterday sentenced to many years behind bars in a Belgian court after he was found guilty of basically supplying pretty much, huge number of the boats and the engines used on those channel crossings. But does that solve everything? Well, we'll find out from the former head of the UK Border Force. I think we all know the answer to the question. This is Talk.
these sort of rewirings of the state do need to be done, because I think vast parts of it, the Home Office I would include in that, the Ministry of Justice I'd include in that, obviously what the hell is going on Britain's borders I'd include in that, and the Met Police I'd include in that. It's these unwieldy, out of control organisations that actually any one or two cabinet ministers who change colours and parties and stripes every few years, actually they come in and realise they're not in charge. These are being run by the organisations themselves to the detriment of Britain.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 11:51 is the time. Coming up, we're going to be top of the hour. Going to be talking to Carl Hennigan, Professor of Evidence-Based Medicine at the University of Oxford. Your friend and mine. Talked to him many times about those fat jabs. And what a surprise. Conversation we've had many, many times. Fat jabs are only basically going to work if you're on them for life. Yep, that is basically what the studies seem to suggest. What a surprise. We're going to be talking about that. Was that the aim all along from those pharmaceutical companies? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Right now, though, we're going to be talking about how the gangs have been smashed, the problem of illegal migration is all sorted, and we can all just get back to our lives and never talk about that issue ever again. Oh, except we can't, because it's still an ongoing issue with more and more people, even with the weather we've got at the moment coming across the channel. This despite the fact that we have seen a man who supplied thousands of small boats and engines to people smugglers in the English Channel being jailed in Belgium. He's a Turkish businessman, aged 45, Adnan Savas. He raked in millions masquerading as the boss of a legitimate maritime supply company, and he became law enforcement's most wanted man after he supplied thousands of the engines and boats to gangs trafficking migrants across the channel. He's been jailed for 11 years. But let's face it, someone else has already taken over that job, haven't they? Let's talk about this with Tony Smith, former head of the UK Border Force. Good morning to you, Tony. Happy New Year. And has this solved the gang problem?
Happy New Year to you too, Julia. Of course, the answer is no. Yeah. I think we should give credit to the National Crime Agency and the Belgian police for taking this bloke down.
The Britons did help with him, with his arrest, didn't they?
Yeah, it's really hard, in my experience, to work across international boundaries at getting after international criminals. A lot of work was put into this. Some of them may even be listening to your show who were involved in that, I don't know. But I would say hats off to them for taking this bloke out. He was prolific. I would have given him a lot more than 11 years. I would have put him away for life, actually. Quite a few of those people it was involved, probably are dead now, and they probably drowned as a result of what he was up to. So I think we should be putting these people away for life. But
can we make a point? Make a point though. He supplied basically a rubber boat and an engine for £4,000 on average, but he knew categorically they were not basically seaworthy.
Yeah, of course they do. They all know that. All the human smugglers know that. They don't care about people drowning like normal people do, because it's all about the money. But, when you talk about international organised crime, this is the same as drug smuggling. It's the same as everything else. You can't put these people out of business completely. Yep. You can take out the big guys. It took them 2 or 3 years to take him down. And yet the boats are still coming, aren't they, Julia? And there's going to be always someone else. This is a game that goes on and will go on in perpetuity between law enforcement and international criminals. Great work on this one, but I'm afraid in itself it's not going to stop the and nor is smashing the gangs.
Well, that was when we talked about it, that was first the policy. Stop the boats was the first policy from Rishi Sunak, and then it was smashing the gangs from Keir Starmer. And we always said, you could arrest the lowest player, you can arrest the most important player in any gang doing this. There is so much money at stake, and it's really easy money. It really is. You're not having to have really complicated equipment. This is not. You don't have to be, rocket science to work out how to get a rubber boat and an engine and get some people who are sitting in camps there in Calais onto a beach and get them into the water. I mean, for goodness sake, a 5-year-old could organise that, and there are always going to be more who are going to be willing to do the job.
Yeah, so you've got to get in the minds of the migrants themselves. Yeah. What are they? I mean, I did go over there with a BBC crew a couple of years ago to interview one of them myself, because I wanted to see what is in their minds. But their mindset is that they probably know somebody here already, or they've been told of someone here. They're in touch with on WhatsApp who said, look, just get in a boat, mate, and come over here, because once you're here, they're not going to send you back. All right? And you'll be out stay. And that's
right.
And they're right. Basically, they're right. And I just did a bit of research on the year-end report. But according to one study, only 2,272 boat arrivals have been returned, Julia, in September to year-end September 2025. When you weighed at about the numbers, which was about upwards of 40,000, it's very, very unlikely that if you come here on a small boat, you are ever going to get.
You're just playing the odds. And by the way, as we've seen, even with some of the people who've been deported on those BA very expensive flights to Paris, the official sort of one in, one out little exchange scheme we've got with Macron, at least 2 of those have come back. OK, they've been found. I love that the government held this as a victory for them and a sign of success. Well, yes, but we found them again. We were able to fingerprint. We knew they were. We sent them back again. Brilliant. I'm paying for how many flights for these people? But this is the thing. The numbers are still going up. I mean, they weren't at the peak of 2022. I think that was just a post-lockdown year, frankly. But they are still in the tens of thousands. And virtually everyone who's ever arrived this way is still here in this country, and we are paying for them.
Yes, I did that job I was the head of the border force. I did that job, though, as you know, Julia, for many, many years, dealt with lots and lots of illegal migrants. You've got to get into their mind. Yep. The only language they will understand is that you get in that boat and get across there, they're going to lock you up and send you back.
Yep. That's all we need to do.
If that's what happens to them, they will stop coming. But we haven't been able to do that. The vast majority, apart from those that you're talking about on the one-on-one scheme who get detained, a very small number, they are still getting set at bail, immigration bail. They're still getting into the communities. They're on bail either in HMOs or hotels or somewhere or other, and they know full well that it's going to take an age before anybody comes after them. And it's very unlikely, depending on what their story is, where they're from, we've got an over a year delay.
Yeah.
Julia,
and also, when you say we're going to come after you, they just miraculously disappear.
So you've got to detain and you've got to remove swiftly. Now we know that it's easier said than done, and we need a lot we need to do that we ain't got time to talk about. To do that is doable, but it does need a lot of work, and at the moment we're not doing that. I'm afraid.
And there's no will to do it, is there? It's perfectly possible to do it, isn't it?
It is possible, but you need very strong leadership. You've got to do a lot of this stuff we've spoken about, Julie, with the ECHR, the 1951 conventions. You've got to change a lot of laws. You've got to build a lot of detention centres. You've got to do Trump-style stuff, really, I'm afraid. It does mean really, really tough.
I've offered my services on a non-partisan, non-party political basis. If Nigel Farage gets in and there's any party that is willing to do this, I will offer my services. I will put the people on the planes myself. I will drag them up by their hair. Yeah. I will do There'll be none of this fanning around when I'm in charge. That's all I can say. Tony Smith, and I want you working with me. Come out of retirement, former head of the UK Border Force, the brilliant Tony Smith, Philip Ingram. It's so soul-destroying. I mean, there was an interview with somebody yesterday I saw where one of those people who's going to be deported, and he's fighting against deportation of the one-in, one-out scheme because, there were 70 of us on the boat and only 20 of us got taken away. The rest of them, it's not fair. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, it's ridiculous. And this is where I know you say it wouldn't have worked. I think Rwanda would have worked in the early stages.
No, Rwanda would work if it was on a full scale.
Yeah, exactly.
But it needs to be 40,000 people, not 200.
It needs to be immediate. It needs to be everyone that comes through gets taken off and put to Rwanda. But instead of having an alternative before they scrapped it with no alternative.
Yeah. And what did we see happen immediately after?
Yeah, the
numbers go up.
Yeah,
the only time the numbers, what was really interesting was when people started heading off to the Republic of Ireland.
Yes, exactly.
So I thought that was very interesting. I'm more than happy to make this the Irish government's problem. I don't want it to be the Irish people's problem.
You should see the problems that there are, because I follow that very closely in Ireland.
Well, here's my thing. They chose to try and punish us for our democratic vote for Brexit. Got no sympathy. Sorry. Anyway, so much more to talk about, including the fat jabs, including those ICE agents. But that's all coming up. Stay tuned. This is Talk.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Very good afternoon. Welcome back to the show. 2 minutes past midday is the time. Absolute pleasure to have your company. Lots more to talk about on the show, including we are going to be talking about why millions of Brits are taking weight loss jabs right now and may need to stay on them for life. The ICE agent shooting of that woman in Minneapolis. And we're talking to an American guest about that. Love to hear your thoughts. Lots of you getting in touch about that. More of your calls as well on the Metropolitan Police and just the, oh my God, the madness of not properly vetting people to join the police. So what a surprise. The likes of rapists and violent thugs slip through the net. But they're not even slipping through. They're being welcomed with open arms. And also we're going to be talking about a new drama on Channel 5 about Hugh Edwards' fall from grace as a BBC presenter. Hugh Edwards is going to be played by, as you see on the front page of The Sun, looks very good casting, Martin Clunes. Absolutely fascinating there. Now, whether you are listening to me on DAB Plus Radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device, it is great to have you company. Don't forget, if you do miss anything, you can go to my YouTube page, The Julia Hartley-Brewer Show, hit subscribe, and then you will never have to miss a thing. Don't forget, I'm going to be telling you more about that competition to win £26,000 in the next half hour as well. Delighted to say, joining us on the show today, throughout the show, he's been the voice of doom. Earlier, I'm not gonna. If you weren't tuned in, I'm sure we've got it out on social media by now. Wow, I mean, basically, it's all going to hell in a handcart. What can I say? But Philip Ingram, MBE, former senior military intelligence officer, joining me today. You're not. I mean, you're a very chirpy soul. It has to be said.
Good afternoon, and a very happy New Year.
But talking Happy New Year, but Happy New Year. Talking about where we are with the US and the threats from Russia and China and all of that. I mean. The risks that we are facing and our basic lack of resilience, both politically, economically, militarily, socially. I mean, it's a bit of a worry. Perhaps we need to be focusing on this stuff.
We do, and it's all linked to what's going on in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine, is linked to what's going on in the Middle East, and we're seeing the potential collapse of the Iranian regime in the Middle East. Is linked to Venezuela, is linked to what China is doing and pressurising there, is linked to what's happening in North Korea, and Kim Jong-un's got nuclear weapons. We need to recognise that there is I
told you, full of cheer.
There is growing world disorder, and we need to be ready for it, because once someone pushes a button or starts another conflict, that's too late. We need to get ready now, because that will deter it.
The urge, I think, particularly in the West, especially when you're dealing with democracies where people, are voting and saying, well, I don't want to pay any more in taxes and the like. The urge for politicians to put their heads in the sand over things like the need to build nuclear power stations, third runways at Heathrow, the urge to, invest in our military, all the stuff that actually costs the serious money, which you don't see the dividends of. And we never really feel the dividends from defence unless we end up going to war. And the whole point of building up defence is to not go to war, isn't it? So
correct. Well, we do.
No wonder they don't want to do it, because they think. Not again. I always say this. China thinks, and the Iranians, they think in generations. Russia thinks in years. Yeah. Our politicians think in 24-hour news cycles.
Oh yes, or what the next tweet is that Donald Trump is that puts out. But there are dividends from defence. The internet is a dividend from defence. LED lights are dividends for defence. People don't realise the dividends that are out there from defence. But the safety and security we've had since the end of the Second World War is a dividend from defence, so people can go out and protest on the streets and everything else. Yeah. If it wasn't for defence giving us the freedoms that we've got, we wouldn't be able to do that, and we need to make sure that we can keep ourselves safe in the future. And the world, I've been at this game for over 40 years. I have never seen a more dangerous period of time, and believe me, I'm worried, and I've never been this worried before.
Carry on as you were, everybody. Give us a call. Your reaction to that, your reaction to all the big stories we're talking about, including the rapists and violent thugs hired by the Met as full checks were basically axed in a rush to hire more people, and crucially to hire more people who fitted diversity targets. Your thoughts on that ICE agent shooting in Minneapolis. May I bear in mind, Minneapolis, of course, is where George Floyd was shot dead as well. We saw those huge riots in 2020. I mean, for some reason, we saw them here in London as well. Never understood that, but there we are. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all those big stories. Give us a call 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text cost £1, standard network rate message. Now let's talk about something that is, well, I think very much in people's minds at this time of year. Certainly we're trying to be good in my household as well, which is losing the Christmas and New Year partying weight. Getting that little bit extra weight that you've put on over the festive period off those hips and the tummy and try to get back into good nick. Well, for some people, they've been trying to do that for a long time, and they have been taking fat jabs. Many people doing it on the NHS, many more, far more, taking them privately. And actually, if you think about all the the food that you're not eating, you may well find them value for money. But the idea is to take the jabs, lose the weight, and then carry on with your life. Except latest studies are suggesting that actually millions of Brits taking weight loss jabs may need to stay on them for life if they don't want to put the weight back on. Well, let's talk about this with Carl Hennigan. He's a professor of evidence-based medicine at the University of Oxford and joins us once again to talk about this topic. Good afternoon to you, Carl.
Good afternoon, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. So we first spoke to you about the weight loss jabs when everyone was saying these are the miracle cure. They're going to save the NHS, save everyone from cancer, diabetes, heart disease, everything. Take the jabs, everyone loses weight. You were pointing out that even on the studies carried out by the pharmaceutical companies, they weren't quite as successful as everyone said in the first place. So you had some warnings about that. I've raised a lot of concerns about the side effects, because there isn't a miracle drug that doesn't have side effects. And now something I've been predicting for the last year appears, love to hear your thoughts on this, appears to be coming true, that actually they only work while you're taking them and then you put the weight back on. What do you make of these latest studies?
Yeah, so NICE said that it was 2 years. This latest analysis says by 1.4 years, you put the weight back on. Now, remember, this is in the randomized controlled trial, so the effects there are likely to be better than the real world.
Why is that?
Well, because in randomized controlled trials, you're tightly adhered, you've got all the clinical support, all the behavioural support, and all the weight management programs that you're supposed to have along.
Yeah, you're aware you're going to be weighed in, so you're kind of more studious about it.
Yeah, and it often the monitoring's more often. So look, like all weight loss programs, you lose weight when you're on them. You lose weight when you're on these drugs. The problem is, how do you keep it off and stabilise your weight beyond there? There's no doubt we've got a huge problem here, Julia. 1 in 3 people is now obese in the UK, and that's doubled since the 1990s. So we can remember an era in the 70s and 80s when we went to school and children and we were around and there were very few people.
Oh, I mean, you could. I've got pictures of me. I mean, I always love my food, and you can see my rib cage.
Yeah. Now look at this. This is the huge problem that's being ignored. At the age of 10, 22%, about 1 in 5 children are obese. If you throw in the overweight, we're talking 1 in 3 children is now obese. This idea that the answer is you go on weight loss drugs for life is not what this study says. It says these short-term fixes don't work. And I have to emphasise the huge issue here with the adverse effects. The thing is that the MHRA, these are still experimental, we're still learning about them, has had 47,681 yellow cards. Of these, 7,000...
Explain what the yellow cards are.
These are reports where a patient, or particularly a doctor, has sent into the MHRA, the regulator, an issue with the drug. Somebody has had an adverse event and used specific. So it doesn't cover all of them. But of these, 7,703 are serious and 69 are with a fatal outcome.
Oh, wow.
So importantly, and the other thing is, remember, there are falsified medicines here. If you're buying this off the internet, you're possibly buying something that I have no idea what it is, and that's a bad idea. So you should only be doing this in a weight loss program. You should only be doing it with prescription, but it's getting out of hand now because we are seeing, I've no idea how many people are on this, but reports are 1.5 to 2 million people are somehow getting this from pharmacies, websites.
I know loads of people who are on the white. I find fascinating. I know husband and wives where, one of them has lost, 3 stone really, really quickly. One of them has lost 3 pounds. Yeah. And these drugs do behave differently for people. Tell us how they work, because they're actually, we often talk about, certain ones of the drugs, but actually they Manjaro and Wegovy, a lot of these drugs work slightly differently, but a lot of it is just about suppressing your appetite, so you actually just don't want to eat very much. Is that right?
And so what they do is they make people, in fact, in lots, about 1 in 10 people, they suppress your appetite by making you so nauseous and vomiting, you get diarrhea, that you can't tolerate the drug. So is in effect, it does what it does is by trying to say, oh, I'm too full to eat.
Yeah.
But a lot of people do have side effects. And in doing so, one of the most serious is the gastrointestinal side effects like the pancreatitis. But what it doesn't do, which you alluded to when you said, it's now January, I'm trying to lose weight, it doesn't change your behaviour.
Yeah.
And behaviour programmes in this review, people put on weight when they came off the programme less slowly. And this is about understanding calories in, calories out, trying to find those areas. For instance, unfortunately, alcohol is a huge contributor to weight gain. It can be 10, 15% of our calories without even thinking about it. So somehow you've got to make a deficit and sustain it with a bit more exercise and
change your whole diet. I think a lot of the advice out there for people is just completely wrong. We keep hearing this whole thing, 2,500 calories for men, 2,000 women. I'm 57 years old and I'm almost 5'11". If I ate 2,000 calories, I would put weight on.
Yeah.
There's no way I can eat that many calories a day and not put weight on. Doesn't matter how active I am. I can, and I do work out, and I play golf, and I walk a lot, and I would put weight on that many calories. And given that most women are about half a foot shorter than me, I think people are getting completely the wrong advice. Like, to me, I think one of the key things is snacking. This idea that they do this with their kids. Everyone needs to eat every hour and a half. And the other key thing is portion size.
So I think you're right. So the 55 to 64, sorry, you're giving your age away here, Julia.
I've never understand people being ashamed of their age. I really never
is the age
that.
When you get to that maximum weight. In fact, it starts to come off after that age because, unfortunately, illness contributes to that.
Yep.
But I think you're right. I think the public health message in here is huge, particularly when you look at issues like social deprivation, where you see the difference in obesity is about 12% between the areas of the highest deprivation to the lowest. You've got all this food poverty.
Well, no, it's not food poverty. It's comfort eating. My life is rubbish. I've got noisy neighbours. My bloke's walked out, and you know what? I want a plate of chips for dinner. It makes sense. I've got nothing to live for. I'm trying to stay healthy. I'm in my healthy BMI range because I want to live a long, healthy life. I've got a lot to live for.
Yeah. So you're talking about that idea of the nihilistic approach to life and healthcare. I'm living today and not for tomorrow. The problem is, Julia, we just cannot afford this in the health system. To have this going from, imagine now we've got children where we've got a third obese or overweight transcending into adulthood. We cannot afford that in society. Doesn't matter. So I think this has to start right in schools, in childhood, and start to change the messaging to say we cannot tolerate this and it's bad for your children.
Do you think, well, again, I mean, if we saw a parent giving a cigarette or a shot of vodka to their 6-year-old, you'd go, that's outrageous. You're a terrible parent. I see a parent giving their kid, a bar of chocolate or a packet of crisps or a can of Coke on the way to school. I think that's just as bad. I think we should be shaming parents who are being lazy, feckless, bad parents. I don't think we do enough of that. If you want to be overweight, that's fine. I don't believe the NHS should only be for people who eat broccoli for breakfast or whatever. I think people have got a right to do what they want with their own bodies. If you are making your kids fat, I genuinely think we should be naming and shaming you, and if necessary, prosecuting you. If you don't feed your kids enough, you'd be prosecuted. If you feed your kids so much that your kids are obese, I think you should also be prosecuted.
So if you look at morbid obesity, that's a BMI of 40 plus. That is equivalent for health outcomes to smoking 20 cigarettes a day. Most people don't recognise that.
Yeah.
The problem is that group of people are in the 30s, 40s. And then the issues start to kick in your late 40s and 50s. And by then it's too late. Yeah. You've done all the damages. You've got diabetes, cardiovascular problems, and huge health issues.
Yeah.
So we've got to get those people, and they're the ones who are the target of this treatment, the PMIs over 40. They are in serious health issues.
Over 40, so I mean, you're talking about being serious. We're not talking about people who've got a little bit of, might have had a few too many mince pies and sherries over Christmas, people.
Correct, but what we're talking about here is 1 in 40 adults. Everybody, as you walk around the street, will see somebody in that group or will know somebody in that group, and it's on the increase. So we really do have to do something at that very high end.
Well, that's been the argument for these weight loss jabs, which these people are saying, I've not been able to lose weight all these years, and they're having all these problems, diabetes, high risk of cancer, heart disease, and all of that, and getting that weight off them, and then... And, that can be a good start if it works them, not too many side effects. OK, fair enough. But what should happen then?
Well, look, you talked about the smoking. Think about the public health messaging that we targeted everybody to say this is a bad idea and try to shift their behaviour. It's very difficult.
Well, we
This is
taxed
not going to
cigarettes,
happen overnight.
and we've started banning people from smoking, and we weren't going to ban fat people from the biscuit aisle in the supermarket. What are we going to do?
Well, look, I can remember a time when people smoked on a plane, in a train.
Totally.
In the pubs, and when you look back in time, you think this is seriously ridiculous. But if you look at certain hidden calories in many of processed foods, you go on board and you're like, geez, this is 2,000 calories.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even make you full. So I think, look, this is not a problem that's going to be solved overnight. Drugs are not going to be the solution for as we're seeing, because you're going to put the weight on. It's not going to be a lifelong treatment. We need
But why can't it be a while? I mean, that's a lot of people are just saying, I'm never going to come off these drugs. I'm going to stay on them for life.
Because what you're doing then is medicalising the whole of society. That comes
But that's
with...
what the pharmaceutical companies want to do.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
That's why they spent years developing statins. They don't want to come up with a cure for cancer. That's not going to make them money. They're going to make money out of putting the entire society on weight loss jabs and statins for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, but remember, statins most benefit those who've already had a heart attack, who have a serious condition and are at high risk of dying in their 50s and 60s. Yeah. We're not treating 20-year-olds or 10-year-olds with statins. But you're right. We have a huge issue here that we have to start addressing. We're not going to... If we medicalise the whole of society, you're going to have huge numbers of people thinking, well, it's all right, I can eat what I want, I'll just keep taking the drugs. That is complete exploratory. We've only got 2 years of experience with these drugs, yet the number of side effects are accumulating, and the cost is going to be huge. This is not going to come free for the NHS on prescription. So anybody who thinks for this lifestyle choice, what we do is sell us a load of products and then we sell you a load of drugs. Yeah, it's a fantastic for the pharmaceutical industry. This is a $70 billion worldwide market. It's due to increase to about 100 billion by the end of the decade. It is a dream for pharma. It is not a dream for us and the public about how we solve this problem.
Absolutely fascinating. Carl Hennigan, Professor of Evidence-Based Medicine at the University of Oxford. Thank you very much, Steve, for that. Philip Ingram, listening to all that's really interesting. I'm going to say something, this is terrible. The whole time we're talking, I'm thinking, I really want a McDonald's. No, I'm not joking, Jane. We're talking about bacon sarnies at the start of the show. I'm just like, well, I had muesli for breakfast.
I was thinking about
bloody horrible.
I was thinking about
bloody horrible.
The bacon sandwich I had for breakfast. I do.
Did you actually have a bacon sandwich?
Oh yeah, I had bacon sandwich. I usually
your
have
your little face lit up then.
I have my bacon sandwich output on Twitter. People love it.
I absolutely love food. We've just been away on a holiday, as you know. You know I like my holidays. One of my favourite things about holidays is you can have literally like a bowl of cereal for breakfast, a cup of tea. You're done for the day, yeah? You're done for the morning. I'm having a 3-course full-on... full works in the hotel. I love the breakfast included. I will literally have... You can't even see the table. I'm loving this. But then I know that the deal is I come home... I'm going to have to be good for a few weeks.
You stay in 7-star hotels and they've got a thing called a calorie filter. They put all the food into this thing. It's like a big super microwave and they dial the calories out of it and press ping and then you eat it. And that's why you pay so much money for the good hotels. No, it's the important thing about this is if people medicalise it, as he said, then the big pharma is going to win and people are going to suffer more because there are going to be more side effects. If it's used to help change lifestyle and recognise...
As a starter to get people back in a healthy life.
In the same way that vaping should be used not as a complete substitute to smoking, it should be used to get you off the addiction to nicotine and then you give up the whole thing. This is where people automatically recognise or think that they can just get away with it by taking a job for the rest of their life. No, you have to change your lifestyle.
I just don't
stop putting it in.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's again, and it's really easy to say that, isn't it? For a lot of people, it's really, really hard. And again, that whole sort of thing, you have all these good intentions, and then you go, oh, I'm really, really tired and I'm really, really hungry. You grab something, you think it's a snack, and it's 800 calories, and it's for a woman of my size, my age. Basically, it is half of my calorie intake for the day. Yeah. Because people don't this, and this is the thing. But yeah, if you I'm always fascinated by those documentaries about, and they follow people. Not people losing weight, not people who've been overweight, but people who live healthily. And it's fascinating. So they'll have a big night out on a Saturday night, and then they just naturally will eat less on the Sunday and the Monday, and they even it up, and it's fine. Whereas, people who put on weight, you're like, well, I'll have the sausage sandwich on the Sunday, and I'll have the takeaway in the evening, and they basically compound each of the bad days with even more. ignored bad days. And it's about a completely different mindset. I'm kind of training myself into having that mindset, but I don't really have it. I am never in my life going to crave fish and broccoli, and I'm always going to want to have a chocolate cake and a McDonald's or a kebab. I am.
Let's start at the early ages. Let's bring sport and PT back into schools again. Let's go down to 2 TV channels so people don't mong in front of all these things that are being fed to them.
Kids need to be out and about and having
kids need to be out and about. Take tablets off.
Kids need to get hungry. I tell you, we've got to get rid of snacking.
Yeah.
I'm always like, every time I see a kid in the street now, like 11 in the morning or something, they're snacking. 11 o'clock is not a time to... You don't need to eat at 11 a.m. You've had breakfast, it's not lunchtime.
Yeah, but before 10, I was thrown out through the front door the weekend, at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Off on your bike.
And if I came back before 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I was told to go away. What do you mean you want lunch?
I always thought my parents were really cruel. Apparently this is how everyone in the 1970s lived. Your parents literally told you, get out of the house.
And 10, 11, 12, with my mates, we'd jump on our bicycles and we'd go and cycle 10 miles to the local river and we'd go fishing and have a really good day out and cycle back again.
Should we just put flat caps on now and get whippets? But that was what life was like. And then again, you could see our ribs and it was complete. You see TV shows and you see films from the 70s and everyone looks like they've just come out of Belson compared to what people look like now, because everyone was... And yet, they weren't skinny. That was just what normal human beings look like.
Our parents came through a time when they've been rationing on food, and you look at the rations during the Second World War. Yeah. Nobody starved to death.
One of the healthiest. One of the reasons we got that generation who lived so long is because people didn't have access to much sugar or fat, but also people who were from poor backgrounds got a healthy diet for the first time.
Exactly.
They'll bring back rationing along with sodding digital ID cards next. Don't give them ideas.
We'll be taxed
Don't give them ideas. I've got a load of you on the phone now about the fat jabs. Can't wait to hear your calls on this. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
TV drama on Channel 5 on Sun Investigation. Look Who's Hugh. Martin Clunes playing disgraced BBC pedo Hugh Edwards, the man that announced the Queen's death. It was the voice of the news. I'm going to try and be as calm as possible because I want your take. I think it is an absolute disgrace that pedo is walking the streets getting £200,000 a year. I cannot believe the BBC are so goddamn incompetent. I'm paying my licence fee so that pervert can live comfortably. It does my head in.
the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. I don't know if it was common sense the last 10 minutes or so, but having a little conversation. I've got the production team saying they should have put the Hovis music on underneath. We were talking about in our day, in the 1970s, we were all skinny, we were all active. And here's another thing. Didn't have money to buy food at the end of show, at the end of school. Yeah. Didn't. No one was fat because you didn't have the money. Yeah. You literally didn't have money. There wasn't. You couldn't afford.
If you wanted sweets, you had to use your own pocket money to go and do it. And,
just saying, let's talk to the parents first. But anyway, let's get your calls. Lots of you getting in touch about fat jabs. Fat jabs for life. If you want to never put the weight back on, 0344 499 1000 is the number to have yours say. Daniel is in Epsom. Good morning and a happy new year to you, Daniel. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you. You, Julia?
Very well indeed. Lovely to. I would say, apart from that, I'm hungry because we've been talking about fat jabs. What do you make of this story?
Well, whilst you're right in saying that it's very easy to put the weight back on, I think when I lost about 4.5 stone.
Wow.
Just bad habits. I only did it for about 6 months.
Wait a minute. How did you lose the 4.5 stone?
Oh, on the jabs.
Oh, right, okay.
On Manjaro, I just bought it myself. Did it? I was one of the first people to kind of do it, and I went from 16.6. I got right down to about 12, 11, something like that. I can't. And it was fantastic. And whilst you're correct, a lot of people could put the weight back on.
I'm not saying it. The studies are showing it.
Yeah, but I sort of think I've managed to keep most of it off. I put a little bit back on, but not a lot. Yeah. And I feel and look a lot better.
Yeah.
But
are you more active now? And have you changed your lifestyle and your diet as well?
I tell you what it does do psychologically, because they call them magic jabs, right? Yeah. They basically ensure that you eat less, okay, and you don't want to eat like you used to.
You're not feeling like you're restricting yourself. You just don't want it.
You don't want to, basically. So they're not magic. You just eat less. Or I went a couple of days without 24-hour periods without eating at all.
Yeah, well, that's not good for you.
Well, I think actually it is. If you look at if you look at the way that humans evolved,
fasting.
They went long periods of time naturally between kills. So they'd have quite a lot of food for a while and then nothing.
Okay, there is a lot of evidence that that actually fasting a day a week and things like that, intermittent fasting. Okay, but I'd be a bit worried if you haven't got natural hunger urges. But what happened when you came off them then? Did you just because a lot of people say they are hungry 24/7.
No. What I would say is it illustrates to you as a person that most of us eat and drink too much, It focuses that point on you quite firmly.
And so the habit of if I'm watching telly, I'm eating chips or...
Yeah, so you know why you were fat. I mean, I've never eat anything sugary. I never eat any sweets or cakes. But for me, it was like I'd stop at Greg's and have like one of their... I'd have like a Cornish pasty and a baguette. And when you actually look at
and
like,
a baguette.
Calories... Yeah,
wow, okay.
For lunch, for example. So you think that's something like 1,400 calories.
I was going to say about 4,000 calories, the two of that together.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's the point I'm making. But when you stop taking the jabs, some people, if they go back to the way they were eating before, obviously would put the weight back on. But it does psychologically show you that you were overeating, and when you ate less, you lost weight.
Yeah.
And I don't like to always include exercise because I know people that are really lazy but skinny, and I think how fit you are is what you do, and how fat you are is what you eat and drink.
Yeah, there's loads of evidence, a vast majority in terms of weight. It's what goes in. It's as simple as that. Daniel, well, look, well done to you. I mean, I hope you can keep it off. I mean, just being healthy. So we're only on this planet once. Be healthy and live as long and healthily as possible. I think it's madness to do anything different, but there we are. It's great to hear from you in the new year, Daniel. Thank you. Tracy is in Staffordshire, and a very happy new year to you. What do you want to say, Tracy?
Happy New Year to you and Philip.
Oh, God, Philip got one.
He's
so happy you said that.
Oh, bless you. I love Philip. He's great. He's a person that knows what she's talking about, which is rare.
I know. She's saying that by way of contrast to me, Philip.
No, bless you.
That's why we have him on, all of our presenters' friends, because they know what they're talking about.
Now, when I was a community pharmacist before I retired, we used to offer, in various places, a low-calorie diet, 600 calories, and basically you had these sachets, and that's all you had. And, of course, everybody lost weight.
Yeah.
There is not one single person that we took through this programme that as soon as they went back to normal eating, they didn't start piling the weight on.
But that's the point. They've gone back to their old normal eating, not to new normal eating.
And we used to counsel people and whatever, and you know, dietitians can say what they like, but it's almost like your brain is your brain is wired that way, and it's almost like an addiction. Except, you know, with alcohol you can avoid alcohol, with fags you can avoid fags. You can't avoid food, and that's what makes it so very.
That's a very good point. I've met people who genuinely, they can eat. I mean, you know, they're not even particularly active. It's not like they're running marathons every day. They could just eat anything they want. They don't put a pound on. Other people who look so much as look at a slice of bread and they put weight on.
I mean, I'm one of those people that my body naturally holds my weight. Yeah. I have been exactly the same weight ever since I've been an adult. Mm-hmm. If I'm hungry, I eat. If I'm not hungry, I don't.
That's a mind, but I don't think that is what most people do.
And I am extremely, you know, I'm extremely lucky. I don't sort of crave great chocolate. My husband tends to put weight on. Yeah. So like over Christmas, he's put weight on. Yeah. Okay. He's now on a diet for a month because he doesn't want to be overweight. Yeah. Is it easy? I mean, basically, he's been on a diet off and on for 40 years. Yeah. Bless him.
Yes, he just
it's not
up and down.
Yeah. And people take jabs. People take cholesterol tablets because it's easy. It's easy. And why wouldn't you want it to be easy? Yeah. I seriously, as an ex-pharmacist, I seriously wonder about long-term side effects on Mounjaros. Seriously, because we don't have the data. We do
and they ain't going to give it to us. I think it's extraordinary. Carl Hennigan was saying they're looking about 69 fatal cases where there's and 7,000 plus where there's serious side effects. And again, they're just not being talked about because everyone's too busy saying these are wonder drugs. There isn't a wonder drug. There just isn't one without side effects. Tracy, thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate that. I'm sure Philip does too. Going to take a quick break now. 12:34. Going to be talking more about that ICE agent fatal shooting in Minneapolis. We're going to talk to New York columnist Adam Coleman. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good afternoon. Welcome back to the show. 12:36. Honestly, all everyone's talking about now is the fat jab. Thanks for those great calls. Lots more calls coming in about the ICE agents and about what's going on in the Met Police. Although, again, I think we're just so used to hearing terrible stories about the Met Police. We're almost used to it, aren't we? Perhaps we should be used to trigger-happy law enforcement agents in America when we've seen the shooting of a 37-year-old woman in America who basically, well, for all counts, was trying to protest against the ICE agents who were there to... these are the agents who were basically trying to arrest illegal immigrants in the country. basically doing law enforcement work that's mandated by a democratically elected president, by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents in Minneapolis. They shot a 37-year-old woman who has now been named as Renee Nicole Good, which has been decried by the Department of Homeland Security as a violent rioter. Well, she was sitting in her car. She shouldn't have been there. She should have done what she was told. She should have got out of the car when she was told to. However, she tried to drive off, and an agent directly in front of her shot her in the head, and she died. That sparked something of a lot of criticism and a lot of protests in Minneapolis, bearing in mind that, of course, is the city where we did see in 2020 the shooting of George Floyd, and we all remember the riots that resulted from that. It is a Democrat city, it is a Democrat state, and this is what the Minneapolis mayor, Democrat Jacob Frey, had to say after that shooting.
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is to ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
Well, he was certainly stirring up more feeling on that. Well, let's talk about this with Adam Coleman, who's a New York Post columnist and joins us now. Good afternoon to you, Adam.
Oh, good morning over here.
Oh, over there. Yeah, indeed. And a Happy New Year to you as well. Look, I'm sure you've seen the video. We play the underlay of the video. Some of the videos actually have to stop at the point where the woman is shot. There's no doubt at all that, you know, she was where she probably shouldn't have been, or that she disobeyed instructions from the law enforcement agencies when they told her to get out of the car. Should she have been shot from what you can see from the video?
So what I would say is I watch a lot of police cam videos. I watch a lot of incidents involving police, whether it's ICE agents or any sort of law enforcement. The vehicle can be seen as a deadly weapon. And so if you are coming towards an officer with a deadly weapon, they can shoot.
Yeah.
A lot of people are showing one particular angle. There's an angle that is out there where you can clearly see that she made contact with that officer.
Yeah.
And so he shot. Now, that officer, what's also coming out, is this officer last year was dragged by a car while attempting to arrest someone for deportation. So, you know, it is reasonable to understand that, one, it is dangerous being around someone in a vehicle, and he already faced that. Two, it's also reasonable to say that this person has already faced some sort of negative interaction with someone in a car, and that he's going to be very, very careful about when he should pull out his weapon.
Yeah.
Because maybe last time he didn't.
So our perception as sort of, you know, armchair watchers would be very different from the perception of someone on the ground at that moment and who had been through that already. And of course, you can look at this footage, you go, look, it's just an unarmed woman. Well, you know, they don't know that, a protester. But and you've got all these men in all the like riot gear with these big guns. Like, why is she a threat? But of course, the reason why they've got all of that equipment and they come in such force, in such numbers, with so much armory, is because they have faced violent protesters in the past, haven't they?
Absolutely. From my recollection, ICE never dressed like this, right? It is in response to the attacks. A lot of people don't know this when it comes to leftist agitators.
Yeah.
But it's because the anti-Trump stuff, the mainstream media makes everything seem like this is legitimate. But for years out in Portland, they were going after ICE facilities.
Yeah.
That was their thing that they love to do. And so the leftists going after ICE is actually commonplace. ICE has faced terrorist attacks.
Yeah.
So this is a very common thing. Now they are propelling it because Trump is fulfilling his promise. He's trying to get illegals out of here, especially the dangerous ones.
Well, this is the thing. This is this woman who's protesting something, which is these guys are, you know, employed to do a job. That job is a completely, I mean, I would say most people in America, even many Democrats would agree, you know, removing illegal people from the country there's certainly a mandate for it. It's from a democratically elected president. So much of this is that these people see themselves as the good people. Anything Trump does is bad. They regard the borders as fluid. They should be open. They regard the idea that anyone's illegal as a concept they don't even accept or understand. And they think they're the good people. That these people are the bad people, so they can do anything they want.
You know, it's so funny. The border should just be open. No one's illegal. It's the most comfortable life position to ever have.
Isn't
because
it just?
you would never face that consequence of what it looks like, because they don't go into your upper middle class neighborhood or your upper class neighborhood. They go where the poor people are, and many of the poor people are people who look just like me. So you don't have to face that. You can live comfortably in your gated community.
And also you can get your cheap maid and your cheap nanny, your cheap gardener, and your cheap latte at the local coffee shop. I mean, that's the reality. A lot of middle class lefties live with the benefits of illegal migration and the lower wages that brings, but they don't have to compete for housing and school places and jobs for these people.
Right, or even the most important thing, safety. Right. We saw what happened when Biden had the border open and what it looked like in New York City. They all of a sudden had brothels popping up, right? Now, if you lived in the Upper West Side, you didn't see that because it wasn't in your neighborhood. But they had sex exploitation that was happening left and right, and it was specifically run by migrant gangs. So it is a safety issue for the vast majority of people out there. And one quick thing, I think it's really important to understand. The way that CNN and MSNBC and all these other leftist outlets are trying to spin this is that ICE agents just run around looking for brown people. Right? They know who these people are. They're not just sort of flooding a neighborhood and just picking people off the street randomly. Exactly. These are people who already went to court, were told you're not to stay, and they haven't left. Right? These are all targeted. Right? Whether they're criminals or not, committed some sort of crime other than overstaying immigration is a different story. But they're not supposed to be here. So these are all targeted. They're not going door to door looking for people. So I think it's incredibly... But that's very much how it is being played out in the media. And I've seen some reports on the Sky and BBC and ITV here in the UK where and they'll have people saying, I've been here for 20 years, and they're being treated very sympathetic. But you're in a country you're not allowed to be in. And I'm assuming at that point you're working illegally, you're not paying taxes, you're not... I'm not sure how, if you're in a country illegally, you're in the system paying taxes and being a contributor. And it just seems to me, it's like these things that it treats like... And they always seem to find a young woman with children. And it never seems to be a bloke they're talking to ever either, crucially. Of course. I've been selling drugs in my neighborhood for 20 years, and now you're arresting me? You are doing something you're not supposed to do. And the amount of time you were getting away with it has no bearing on anything. And I don't care if you made kids here or not, you're not supposed to be here. I'm with you. I mean, it's very, 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 very clear to me. But there is no doubt at all that this is going to create ripples. There's going to be an investigation. I'm still not convinced that this woman needed to die in this scenario, but she shouldn't have been there. She should have followed instructions from law enforcement officials, and she was very, very foolish. But I think there were other ways that this could have been dealt with, and I think that the US law enforcement are largely much more trigger happy. I don't think she'd have died in the same circumstance here, but let's be honest, if she were black, there would already be riots on the streets, but she was a white woman, so there aren't. You know that, and I know that. Possibly. I know that they're trying to. But yes, you could be onto something. It's always, black people are always seen as the more sympathetic figures. But they're definitely trying to gin up something over in Minnesota, especially in the light of Tim Walz not running for re-election. The governor, with all the fraud cases coming out. Can we touch on that? Because that's something I haven't got to this week, because we've had quite a lot of news already this week in relation to Venezuela and Greenland, goodness knows what, and news here in the UK. But just touch this, because it's the most extraordinary thing that was exposed on X, on social media, by independent journalists, and it took a long time for the mainstream media in America to pick up on this. And this is this expose over billions of dollars going to certainly in the hundreds of millions of dollars going to Somali childcare daycare centres that didn't even exist. Yeah, and actually it started with the daycares, but actually it's expanded more. Apparently, You know, they say that America needs socialism. Apparently, we had socialism because this is all taxpayer funded. They were sending millions upon millions of dollars to daycare centers, to adult care centers, to supposed autism centers. You know, the list goes on of publicly funded things that were coming from either the state of Minnesota or in combination with the federal government funding these things. So the Somalis were essentially gaming the system. And the reason they were able to do it is because there was no oversight.
There were no even cursory checks. Well, this journalist literally went along and knocked on doors and went, why have you got no kids here? Like, you've just got an empty office and you're pretending you need millions in funding for these kids, and there are no kids here.
Yeah, and the big thing, you know, the detractors, because Nick, the journalist, is right. There's no kids here. That's concerning. You're getting paid $1 million+ a year. But the other part is these facilities tend to be small, yet they're saying that they're there for upwards of 50 to 100 kids. Yeah. There is no play area, which is a common thing that daycare centers actually are required to have.
So they would have known. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. But Tim, it is interesting. Tim Waltz, the outcry over this has meant that the man who was the running mate of Kamala Harris in the presidential election last time round is not running again for the governorship, which is very interesting. Adam Coleman, great to have you on the show. Columnist in the New York Post, thank you very much indeed. Philip Ingram, your response to any or all of that?
Well, you know, I think he's putting it into context, and you know, it's very interesting to get the American view, because it's easy for us to sit here and see things that are coming out from one particular side.
The number of guns that people have, and the terrorism, effectively, the ICE agents have themselves faced.
Exactly, and then putting it into context that this particular ICE agent had suffered from, you know, a car-related incident only a short time beforehand, then brings a slightly different spin.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, absolutely does.
But I'll still say, from the videos that I saw,
from what we've seen, it didn't have to end that way.
It wouldn't have happened that way here.
No, absolutely not. Thank you very much, Steve. Before we go to a break, let's remind you here at Talk we are welcoming the new year by giving away a massive £26,000. What better way to kick off 2026 than with a chance to win some serious cash? Yes, 26 grand. It's our biggest New Year cash giveaway, and it could be yours. 26k for 2026. And here is how to enter. For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or you can call 0343 423 9761. Lines close at 12 p.m. on the 9th of January 2026. That's when you'll need to answer your phone. If it rings, it's open to the UK only and only 18 plus adults. This is a network promotion. For full T's and C's, you can go to talksport.com/win. So for your chance to win, text 83338 right now, and very good luck. We'll get a quick break now, and then we're going to be talking about extraordinary new drama, looking at the, well, downfall of the BBC doyen of the presenting world, Hugh Edwards, being played by, you'll never guess who, Martin Clunes. That's up next. This is Talk.
rewirings of the state do need to be done, because I think vast parts of it, the Home Office I'd include in that, the Ministry of Justice I'd include in that, obviously what the hell is going on Britain's borders I'd include in that, and the Met Police I'd include in that. It's these unwieldy, out of control organisations that actually any one or two cabinet ministers who change colours and parties and stripes every few years, actually they come in and realise they're not in charge. These are being run by the organisations themselves to the detriment of Britain.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. 12:53 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Philip Ingram still with me, and delighted to be joined now by a media industry commentator and PR expert, Mark Bukowski, to talk about it's very rarely we do this, a new Channel 5 show that is coming to us very soon. A very good afternoon to you, Mark.
Hi, Julia.
Thank you very much for joining us. Well, this has put the cat among the pigeons. The front page of The Sun today with it's basically a two-part drama about the fall from grace of the now disgraced BBC News reader Hugh Edwards. And the man they've chosen to play him is, and this is, I've got to be honest, having looked at the photograph, the front of The Sun, superb casting, is Martin Clunes. He's going to star in the series provisionally titled Power, the downfall of Hugh Edwards, expected to be broadcast later this year. What do you make of the decision to run this drama?
Well, I mean, this is straight out of the Channel 5 playbook, isn't it? I mean, it has always been deliberately repositioning itself as this outlier. It doesn't have resources of ITV, Channel 4, or even some of the big streamers. So whatever they do, they can be quite maverick about it. I mean, I remember commenting on the Philip Schofield programme where they sort of grabbed that moment and generated what is happening now, a huge amount of publicity. Front page of The Sun, you now talking about it.
Yep.
Probably people wouldn't have thought about tuning in for a Channel 5 drama, but that's what they do.
No, indeed. And you remember that Philip Schofield drama, I have to say, and, I'd done lots of work on This Morning, and I've got to be honest with you, I'd never picked up on any of the stories about Philip Schofield that were doing the rounds. But that, when he was on a desert island, it was the most bizarre TV show I'd ever watched, indeed. And I thought, frankly, an absolute disaster for Philip Schofield. This isn't, sadly, going to be Hugh Edwards being sent off to a desert island, which I think what a lot of us think he should. But I think it's difficult to sort of convey to people, perhaps who at this industry, just how senior Hugh Edwards is. I mean, this is the man who, if it's the Queen's funeral, the King's coronation, if it's a general election, this is the man that was chosen by our state broadcaster to present that event. I mean, it has been such a fall from grace.
Massive fall from grace, and quite extraordinary. I mean, he announced the Queen's death, one of the great moments of the century. And I remember when the speculation, don't forget, the story ran for quite some time about who it might be. Yeah. And I remember calling some of my pals up and saying, who is it? And I joked. I said, surely it's going to be Hugh Edwards. It was a joke, and they confirmed it. I was astounded because, something happened in plain sight, I suppose. And again,
it turns out
one of the problems for Tim Davie.
It was happening in plain sight, because I've spoken to lots of people since saying, about him messaging, young male colleagues and basically threatening them about, offering them help, and if they didn't accept it, and then making threats about their careers. I mean, this is, playbook stuff that we've seen throughout, the film industry, the TV industry, but happening from someone who I think everyone thought was, Mr. Innocent, Mr. Nice Guy, married, load of kids, he's been around for years. You assume whiter than white. And of course, it wasn't just the issue with the teenager that he was sending money to in return for lewd photographs. It was also then his conviction for being in possession mention of, I mean, we can offer you some child pornography. It's not images of of babies being raped, that he'd been sent by a fellow paedophile, and he didn't report it to the police. It was found quite by accident. It wasn't that he was being investigated for that. And I think that was just such a shock for so many people. Do you think that people will want to watch a drama about this? Will people think, I already know about it? Or will they also, there's an element where people, especially parents, let's be honest, I just don't want to know about this stuff?
Well, they've got a choice. They don't have to watch it, but I dare say people will. There's that morbid curiosity, and the dramatisation of something like this will always attract audiences. I mean, they know what they're doing. And in a sense, it's a fable of modern times about just how toxic fame is. And someone trapped, you know, who couldn't ever be himself, and who never thought about seeking help.
I mean, he could have been himself. If he was gay, he could have gone off and he could have been gay. I mean, Philip Schofield continued his career when he said it turns out, you know, he was gay. But again, that was, forced on him. I think he was going to be outed by the papers. But, I mean, just finally, do you think there's a way back for Hugh Edwards or indeed Philip Schofield ever?
Short answer to Hugh Edwards, absolutely not. No. For Philip Schofield, well, maybe.
Very interesting. Mark Bukowski, media industry commentator, thank you very much indeed. Philip Ingram, I mean, it is difficult, isn't it? There are people who you had in your living room, effectively. You know, these have been the face of major events in our lives that we're all going to remember when we found out, you know, the Queen had died, or these major events, general elections, things that have really changed our lives, actually. And this person who's been trusted, and we assume has been vetted and is trustworthy, suddenly finding that it's all they are living a complete lie.
Oh, I was gobsmacked whenever it happened, because he was an individual that you respected, and you respected his view, and he came across, and I've been interviewed by him in the studio, and he came across as a lovely person. But, you know, my concern about the drama coming out, Wendy, is I hope someone's providing support for his victims, because
very good point.
You're going to potentially re-traumatise them again as they go through.
Yeah, although again, I don't think that's ever a reason for not talking about it often.
But the support needs to be there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, no way back for him, certainly. No. Although an attempt for him to get back on social media, it's like, just go away, just go away. No one wants to hear from you. Philip Ingram, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much. The voice of doom on quite a lot of stuff.